Today, we're going to be digging into all of Nintendo's big announcements and asking ourselves the question, what is next? What happens next? Do you know?
Nintendo really threw us a curveball with this twofer of the Partner Showcase and the Indie World Showcase. Late August.
Yeah. No
first party. Very different approach for this time of year. And it's got people, including us, thinking, what's going to happen now?
Yeah. And they had even more stuff. They announced the opening date and shared that video of the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto. We have some honest thoughts and feelings about this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
This is really one of the episodes of this podcast. Normally we have we come up with ideas of what are we going to talk about, what are we going to do. We lock that down a couple days before we record and then, come up with some notes and whatever else. This week, though, you got hit with the devastating food poisoning.
Yeah.
Which may have been a glass half full moment.
I think it was because this third-party showcase, Indie World Showcase, happened this morning. Tuesday mornings, and we're recording this podcast a day later. We usually record on Mondays. I could not get out of bed or out of the bathroom, TMI. I was unable, literally unable.
So it was worth it, you're saying?
No, it wasn't. It was awful. I had proclaimed to you so triumphantly, not 2 weeks ago, I haven't thrown up in
Don't do that.
10 years. Wow, look at me.
The puke karma is going to come back and get you.
Don't do that, people.
Don't do that. Don't say that.
I got mine, let me tell you. The universe.
I'm back on top now.
I know. The universe really likes to,
the Kit Krysta puke tracker, which we definitely have. We definitely keep daily. It's like being in prison another day. Here we go. You're back to zero. Great.
Man, but on to happier topics.
Before you were struck down with food poisoning,
you
visited Capcom headquarters.
I did.
And people already know that you did a great video on Monster Hunter Wilds. That's how people can watch it. But you did more too.
I did so much more. Yeah. I played more games. I also did a really fun Capcom office tour with, the best part is, Capcom is a very cool place to visit, obviously, and it's a cool office to go to. But the best part is that our old friend and colleague
and coworker
from Nintendo is now at Capcom.
Yes.
And he gets to do cool stuff with creators. And so now we get to work together with Joe in a different way, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And he was basically the tour guide for this video that we did, all about, what the Capcom office is like. And I would say that the Capcom office, out of sort of all the gaming offices around, is definitely one with a lot more personality. They have a lot of cool stuff in their office. They actually, have things up, that showcase the games that they make, versus when we all worked at Nintendo, it was very sort of bland and boring. And Joe and I were talking about laughing a little bit when we were going through the office tour. We're like, man, this is a lot more fun than the Nintendo office. He's like, I know. But yes, it was very fun to go do that. And we have a video taking you guys inside the Capcom USA office, which also conveniently is very close to my house. So I'm just there all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a great history of touring the Capcom offices over the years. That was one of the very early Nintendo Minute videos that we did where we left the studio. They were in a different, they may have been several buildings
location
ago. Yeah. But I'm just glad to know they still have that giant Mega Man statue.
They do.
I gotta say, there's a lot of Mega Man stuff in that office for a company that ain't making Mega Man games anymore. I'm just putting that out there.
I did ask Joe the question. He walked away from me in silence. So I don't know. I tried, people. I tried. But yes, it is a very fun video. I'm so glad that you and I have, just been really in with Capcom.
Embraced.
Exactly. Yes. There's such nice people there. They've always been really great to us. Even, when we were at Nintendo, we did tons of Nintendo Minute partnerships with them. Now we get to do more things with them, talking about other games that are not on Nintendo platforms. So it's just great stuff.
Yeah.
With Capcom, we love them, and we're glad they love us too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So from one video that put a smile on your face to one that maybe didn't, we did something that surprised us the other day. We reacted to the Zelda CDI games.
Why did we do that?
This was a great idea that came from our Patreon superstars saying, we got the Zelda game coming. You guys have been doing a lot of Zelda stuff. Have you considered this? And frankly, I had not, because much like the original Mario movie, I had just pushed this stuff to the side of my brain and said, I know this exists, but I don't care to engage with it because it's going to make me maybe feel bad about something I really love.
That's true.
And that's not never a place, that I want to be.
Right. Your expectations for this treasure thing that you love, and not only from your childhood memory perspective, but something that you are like wanting to engage with every day.
Right.
And to have that tainted.
Yeah. Imagine your best friend's like, I want to tell you my deep, dark secrets. Like, maybe I don't want to know.
Yeah. You killed a man? I mean, uh-oh.
Maybe I don't want to know that.
I do have a secret to tell you.
Now?
No.
Oh. What? But we did do it. We reacted to these. There's 3 games.
Yeah.
We've reacted to all 3.
Yeah.
We have some thoughts.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening because, again, like I knew kind of the high points of what these games were. I've seen all the memes, I've seen the images. But to actually see them in action, see how they play, kind of see the full totality of those experiences was an experience.
I don't know if I'll ever be the same after that. I truly, I think about them even now, even days and weeks after.
I spent a lot of time that weekend after thinking about that. And I do have a good kind of follow-up in the games we're playing section.
Yeah.
But yeah, that... You ain't finding this in the Nintendo Museum, I'll tell you that much.
I do find myself just thinking about all the different ways that this became a reality.
Yeah.
And the decisions that were made to make these games the way they are. And then I was editing this video and I was just like, I had another moment of just like an existential crisis almost. Like, these are just some weird, it's weird.
It is strange.
Some weird stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, please watch as our soul
Watch as we react, and maybe you can react and have a reaction as well.
I don't know how many people have seen these, have played these, have watched the games in their totality. I really want to know how you guys feel.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, again, we were both coming up in that era. I certainly didn't know in that, 1990, whatever, 5 or whatever. I didn't know that these things existed. It wasn't until, the internet was really, getting out there and you were able to learn more about stuff on the periphery.
Right,
but in the moment, most people did not know that these existed.
The other thing
people didn't have a CDI into their TV.
I know, right? The other thing too is these games are so far into the meme zone.
Yeah.
Is do you just know the one meme, or have you actually watched or played these games and actually looked deeper than just the 2-second meme? I would like to know that, because there is a big difference there, and some things that can make you feel that are strange and weird.
Right. And also, at Nintendo, nobody was talking about these. Nobody wanted to talk about these.
Oh, this was the Voldemort
Again,
of
it's a deep, dark secret. You just don't talk about it.
And you are never to speak of these games. You're never to bring them up in any kind of works. And that's a real no-no. No one at Nintendo ever wanted to even acknowledge.
But now in hindsight, I kind of wish I had asked a couple provocative questions.
You would have been fired!
Hey, Mr. Miyamoto, tell me about this. I bet he would have been down to talk about it. Just with us? No, I think it's what was going on then?
He probably would have talked about it, but he probably would have brushed you off too.
All right.
Oh, man.
What could have been. Check that out. Another thing you can check out soon. So our August spoilercast is out. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Very good.
We have also revealed now our September game. It's a game that's coming out this week. Emio the Smiling Man Famicom. It's going to put a smile on your face. You're going to smile forever after you play this game. And a bag over your head. I didn't say that. You're going to have a smile. It's going to last forever.
Oh, no.
We've been playing the demo. We're going to talk about that in the games we're playing. I'm excited about this one.
Me too. This is a very cool game for a spoiler cast because it's obviously very story-based.
Right.
I was a little nervous because I thought I was going to be really scared, but we have been playing. It's been really fun because they've been releasing these chapters.
Yeah, we've been doing the demo.
And now I'm very interested and intrigued by this game, and I can't wait to have this be the spoiler cast game and talk about all the things that could possibly happen. And
Yes.
yeah, I'm really liking it a lot. So I'm excited about this as our next spoilercast game.
And those, we've typically been releasing those around the end of the month.
Yeah.
I think this one we're going to try and release closer to the middle of the month because we're
Right.
going to Japan.
Yes.
It's going to be tough to put together a spoiler cast on an airplane or in Japan or something. So we're going to
Yeah.
we're going to plan to get it out before then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So things are happening, busy. September coming up, and lots of cool stuff on the horizon.
Yeah. And then lastly, this week is just nuts. Is it? No, not tomorrow. Thursday,
We leave.
we are going off to PAX.
Yes, we are.
In Seattle, which is going to be a great time. We're going to be there for a couple days. If you're going to be there, I hope you come to our panel.
Yeah.
That's on Friday, 1 to 2 o'clock in the Firebird Theater.
Ooh.
Have you
Is that
looked?
large?
What kind of research have you been doing on
I
this
don't.
theater?
I don't do.
Is
I
that
don't wanna,
large?
I don't want to do it. I'm scared. It's gonna be like scary.
Well, it is. I know it is in that same kind of area where we did ours last year. We were in kind of a shockingly large room.
I was really scared about that.
But then you proclaimed that you were over it. So this is really going to be
I'm
the
not
test.
over it.
You're not over it
I'm
at all.
under
Okay.
it again.
All right, fine.
And I'm all. As soon as we get like closer to it, I get scared again.
All right, fine.
But we do have a fun story time.
We have a
lined up
great
for
story
this.
that we're going to share
Yeah.
that is about Zelda and
PAX.
also a little bit about Penny Arcade
Yeah.
as well. An
What
interesting
a great.
project we did crossing over between the two.
Yes, and we do have like a physical giveaway. Fun thing.
We have very few of these. We should. It's
10.
not going to be like an Oprah moment. Like
No.
everybody look under your seat. No, we
you
have,
get a car.
We
you
have
get a car.
so few of these.
We have 10 though of
Yeah.
these very special things that made
Probably extremely rare at this point.
extremely
Yeah.
rare, but we'd love to give it to you guys if you're at the panel.
Yes.
We will have a very small number, but we do want to give some away.
And as always, I do think PAX is streaming this, but it's on their channels, so check their Twitch if you want to track that out.
Yeah.
We will have that whole segment in next week's podcast, though.
We will,
So
yeah.
you can't miss it.
You really can't.
No.
And we're going to be vlogging, of course, our
Yes.
PAX experience, which is going to be.
You got a hot new camera.
I was just going to say, should I go get it? No.
No. You're locked into this podcast right now.
Go. I can't leave. But we got a new vlogging camera. I am so
Yes.
excited. It was like a very scary moment because we ordered the camera in like
You ordered it kind of a long time ago.
early in August.
Yeah.
And they had said that, it
wasn't
was
shipping.
so popular that it wasn't going to be able to ship until like almost when we were leaving for Japan. And I was really nervous. I was like, oh my gosh,
That
we're
would've
going to
been a
have
bummer. Yeah.
this new camera that we can't use for any of the vlogs that we're going to be doing. But we got the camera early.
That's right.
It shipped, like it suddenly was like shipping. And then we just got it the next day, which was shocking. But I'm really excited to start shooting our vlogs with this new camera. I love it. I
Yeah.
love to play with new toys. But hopefully that means better quality for you guys and like just better produced content. So
Yeah,
Exciting
So
stuff.
that's going to be coming out real soon. We're going
Yeah.
to turn that. It's going to be another lost weekend of you just editing away.
just hope I don't get food poisoning.
Ah! Nobody ever got sick at a convention. I mean, come on.
Hopefully I paid
We got
my,
sick from PAX last year. Let's not have that happen
Hopefully
again.
I paid my dues already before PAX.
Oh.
Pre-PAX dues
All right.
paid.
There's so many ways you can get sick, though.
Great.
Let's get into our big talk on the Nintendo Direct and what might be coming next for Nintendo. But first, we have another sponsor to shout out. Another new sponsor. It's so exciting to have new sponsors.
Yeah, this is a really good one.
This episode is sponsored by Turtle Beach, the #1 brand in gaming headsets and accessories. Yes, they sent us the Gen 3 of their Stealth 600 headset. We have been using it. I love this thing.
This thing is so great. And I've been looking for a new gaming headset since I play a lot in my living room and I want to bug the other people in my house.
Right.
And this is so nice. It has Bluetooth so you can like quickly connect it to all your consoles. The sound is like crystal clear. Like I don't play a lot of shooter games, but I've always heard like, oh, if you're like a real, competitive.
Yeah, hear them coming.
You can hear them coming.
Hear the footsteps,
but
yeah.
I really love playing this because it gives you such an immersive experience, and
Right.
you just really feel like you're like in the environment with all the sounds and stuff. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their entire order when you use code KITKRYSTA at turtlebeach.com. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code KITKRYSTA. Another thing about this is it is extremely comfortable.
It is very comfortable.
Like that is the thing of like over-the-ear headsets. You think like, oh, that's definitely, you can wear that for as long as you want. But sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Like it'll strangely start to like
Kind of
feel it, fatigue your
yeah,
ear.
Totally.
But there's just some way about the way they have constructed this. It's like I feel like I could wear this for as long as
it's a lot
as I need
lighter
to.
than you think it is because it looks, it's a over the ear headset. So when you hold it in your hands, you're like, oh,
this thing's solid.
This is pretty solid.
Right.
But then you put it on, it's like very light.
Yeah.
So I really like that about it. And I have a tiny head, so like a pinhead.
Great.
So I needed to like fit my small head.
Yeah, you were mentioning the Bluetooth connection. It does also have a dongle if you want to connect it. Some people have feelings about Bluetooth, so
I like the
however you want to do it. We've been using it on our Switch. Works perfectly great.
Yeah, it works on all the consoles.
On the Switch, really good battery life. 80
Yes.
hours. I've charged it. I've been using it like for a couple of weeks, so I haven't had to charge it at all. I've been using it basically every day. So this thing is like super nice.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
So get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. For a limited time only, head to turtlebeach.com and use code Kit Krysta for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code Kit Krysta.
We'll put the link right over here and also in the description below. Get your headset, people. It's good stuff.
All right, Nintendo Direct and Indie World Showcase. So we do have a full reaction to this up on our channel if you want to check that out.
Yeah.
But we can start just by going through some of the highlights. So I was curious how they were going to structure this thing. Like, is this going to be two separate videos? Like, what are they going to do? And they just kind of strung them both together.
Right.
Which,
they're pretty evenly split as well, about 20 minutes
about 20 minutes of each. They haven't done this before, right? I can't recall that.
I can't recall
Just jamming two things back to
back. They
back.
have done, like, when it was Nindies, back in the day when it was Nindies.
Yeah.
They have done like a indie world or like an indie showcase around PAX because sometimes people have playable games.
Yeah.
So they have done that before, but this sort of
I'm talking about it, two things in one.
Two things in one, like this time of year, is pretty unique for them.
Yeah. So they started with the Indie World Showcase, which I think we both thought was pretty solid.
Oh, so good, yeah.
I'll just run through, stop me if you want to talk about any of these more. Coffee Talk Tokyo, I think that's one of the couple games that we were super excited for.
So in on this.
Yes.
So cool.
I asked you, because you played the original Coffee Talk.
Yeah, I was like, where did it...
And I said, where did it take place? And then and you're like, I don't know. And then it was immediately pointed out, Seattle.
It's Seattle.
Why didn't you know this?
I didn't know. I don't remember.
Is Seattle still the coffee capital of the world? Because there was definitely a time where it was
Starbucks
like, that's Seattle coffee. That's really something.
Yeah, they have Seattle's best coffee.
That's not the best coffee.
Seattle people, we're going to see you soon. Don't come at us for our coffee thoughts about your
But that looks great. Sea of Stars DLC, are you going to check that out?
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks great. I love that game. Want to check it out.
Balatro, is that how you say it? Balatro?
Balatro, I believe.
They had some DLC with different...
This is a really fun game.
Card packs.
Just try the game.
I know. I do have it. I already have it on the Steam Deck. I just haven't had a chance to try it.
Just check it out. I think you would like it.
I've been thinking ahead of like games I need to play for Game of the Year. I'll check it out.
It's such a quick play too.
Date Everything.
This is the game of the show for me, I think.
Really?
I think so.
Oh.
This game is so amazing. It's like you're living in this house and all of your household like inanimate appliances and objects become dateable people. And it's like zany and weird, but it looks super fun. And of course, there's a lot of husbando and waifu potential, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. It looks so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people out in real life, like on a date with like a stuffed something or other. I've definitely seen that here or there. So maybe, rip from the headlines or more real than you might think.
Oh, interesting.
I've married this towel. Let me tell you about it.
I really would love my kitchen appliances to become like a hot man. That sounds great.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Morsels, I don't know. It just looked like a really interesting mashup of stuff.
It did.
I don't know. I'm like at a loss for words of how to describe it.
We were distracted because we were looking at the developers had a cute cat in the background, and all we could see was the cat. So we like tuned out everything they said. So if they described the game, we didn't hear it.
Yeah.
But it has like it does have some aspects of the games that are getting real like popular these days, where it has sort of this like 90s kind of cartoon quality to it.
Yes.
It has like a bit of this griminess to it that's really interesting, but also mixed with something that's kind of like, I don't know, like
very
dreamlike,
very mash-uppy genre-wise. Also, like, kind of similar to that Moth game that they had also.
Yeah.
Seems similar to that. Peglin, that was one of the shadow drops. That's a game I'd played before on the Steam Deck.
I want to try that on
That game's
Switch.
cool. And then the big ending for this was Pizza Tower, which is also out now.
Yeah.
Kind of a surprise for people because the developer had said, don't expect a Switch version anytime soon.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It is out.
Yeah.
You're gonna play this?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to play that and Peglin, I think. And the Sea of Stars DLC is probably the 3 most recent things I'll check out.
Right.
And then I'm excited for most of the games that were in the showcase as usual. I love the indie showcase. I think it does a great job of showing all the variety and stuff. But there was a lot of cool games coming out.
A lot of competition in the Wario Land alike all of a sudden with Anton Blast. I mean, they've been doing this campaign for a long time, talking about how it's coming to Switch, and then out of the blue, Pizza Tower just drops.
Anton Blast is coming in November too, so it's not
it's
that far off.
It's not out yet.
Yeah, but there is a lot of, there is a specific type of game that's very popular right now that has kind of a similar look and feel.
Right.
So it's getting a little competitive out there for sure.
So that was kind of 20 minutes of Indie World Showcase, then it rolled right into the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Got off to a really strong start with Tetris
That
Forever.
is so cool. The anniversary is this year,
compilation of all these classic Tetris games, plus a big kind of documentary-ish thing. I saw our friend Chris Kohler, who works at Digital Eclipse, who's developing this. He had a tweet saying that it was feature length. So not some sort of a throwaway thing, but sounds really substantial.
That's amazing. And we know every single time they do any sort of these kinds of historical game documentaries collections, we're all in on them, and we love the way that these are put together. And this is a game that, I genuinely just wanting to learn more about the history of it too.
Yeah, that's
I've done so many things, watch that random movie on Apple TV, and
the gaming historian video on this is one of the best that he's done.
Yeah.
So I do wonder what else can they add to the story with this, and there's so many interesting versions of Tetris over the years. Hatris, you saw me pop off
Hatris
when they had Hatris on that list. So that was a really strong start to this.
Yeah.
Other stuff, Capcom Fighting Collection 2 includes my beloved Power Stone games.
Yeah, you were excited about the Power Stone.
You've never played Power Stone?
I think I've played it a little bit, but I don't know. I don't remember too much about it.
Yeah, there was a time where it was Smash Brothers and Power Stone were kind of neck and neck for the fighting party game crown.
Exactly. I was definitely
And then they never made another one after that.
They had Power Stone 1 and 2.
What's the deal?
What happened?
Where's 3?
Power Stone 3 coming in 2025.
Joe, I've got more tough questions for you,
He's
Joe.
going to run away again. Don't do that to him.
But that had a ton of other games in it.
Yeah. I love these collection things that they have.
Yeah.
It's nice
just
to
release
have it and
just
give
release
it to
release
us.
it all. Suikoden 1+2 HD collection.
That's beautiful.
That was a big surprise. Those two are really, really classic JRPGs.
Yeah.
That had kind of, again, they weren't available, so I think they were kind of not as well known as some other big series, but there was definitely a time on the PS1 Suikoden was where it was at.
Yeah.
And then the series just kind of tailed off so many Konami series. So it's really nice to bring that back.
I want to play this.
And our friend Jason Schreier is the #1 Suikoden fan.
That's right.
So it's a big day for him.
Big day for Jason, yes.
Big day for me, though, Castlevania Dominus Collection.
You worked in all these games.
I did. This is all of the DS games. And then they had, I need to look into that other thing that they added, which people were saying is actually something that's entirely new. I literally just downloaded it before coming in here, so I have not had a chance to go super hands-on. But these 3 really, really top tier Castlevania games.
Yeah.
This is kind of Iga's last 3 games in Castlevania. Thank goodness they found a way to get the DS stuff.
Right. It seemed like it was okay. You were the touch screen, does it look like they have a little screen for it?
Yeah, I mean, this game had
seems like they're going to be all right.
Very light touchscreen integration.
Right.
And there were some times where you beat a boss and you have to draw something to seal them away or something. And I guess, it could be daunting depending on how authentic you want to be. But you basically, it's kind of like Mario 3D World, which we were actually playing recently, where you press a button and a little cursor comes up and you can do what you need to do.
What you need to do.
And then the cursor goes away. So it's, they have not recreated that experience, but I don't think they needed to.
That's not really the point of those games, not like an all-touch experience, so it should be fine.
It's good that they kind of just got over it and were like,
Yeah.
this is good, this is not the focus of the game, and hopefully more people will see this and say like, yeah,
we can do this.
We should bring these DS games that are not 100% touch focused and find another way to do it, because we can, and I'm sure there's a big audience for it.
Right.
Yeah, the layout of the screen is so interesting because, on the left side, the left half, you have kind of the main game screen, and then you have two
it's like sort of menus
stacked up.
Yeah.
So on the bottom of those games, you would have a map.
Right.
And then I think they've mirrored what used to be the pause screen below that.
Right.
So it's like you have a
lot of information on that.
At first I was like, oh, is this too much? Is this information overload? But I did play one of those games for a tiny bit before we came in here. I was like, no, I actually love this.
Okay.
Because all this stuff is available. No one of those screens feels too small.
Okay.
Either. That was a concern. I was like, it's like you're shrinking down that screen. Am I going to want more real estate? I was playing in handheld mode. I didn't really care. So I was super in on that. I think it's a really cool way to do it. And yeah, I think of all the Castlevania collections that they have released, I would say this is the best one for my preference. They did the GBA collection, which is also really good. And then they did a collection with a lot of the classic older games. Still no Symphony of the Night, though.
Yeah, no
which
Symphony of the Night.
Weird.
Why?
Weird.
Why?
What's the deal with that? I don't know. But that's made me really happy. Near the end, we got Rune Factory, Guardians of Azume.
This looks good. Like, we've been meaning to check out a Rune Factory game.
Yeah.
This one looks like really legit. Like, it has a lot going on. It has like,
They've really blown out like what this game
I know.
can be,
Now it's like a whole world building.
Yeah.
Like, there's a farming sim kind of aspect to it, plus the combat, plus the relationships. I got excited about that. It was like Fire Emblem.
You really did, and I don't know why.
It was just so cute. The little
What,
Japanese,
marrying somebody in a video game? I've never been able to do that
the cute
before.
little Japanese wedding. I was like,
All
this is adorable. I'm really excited about it.
Then the big finale was Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake of the first Yakuza game coming to the Switch. This is not a new game. This has been around on different platforms for a while, but it's notable because the Yakuza team had come out and said, like, yeah, we don't think the series is a great fit for the Switch. Some of their rationale was, I would say, a little shaky.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
Seems like they're over it now.
I'm glad they got over it. It is a huge opportunity for them, and hopefully is a nice lead-in to Switch 2.
Exactly.
To bring more of those games. Please don't do like what there were Yakuza games on the Wii U. Please don't base everything on just this one game.
Exactly.
Understand the potential of Yakuza on a Nintendo platform.
Exactly.
The potential being super big.
Yeah.
And don't just be like, oh, well, Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake that's been around for years and is constantly on sale. Like, you can constantly get this game for like $5 on a PlayStation. Don't read the wrong things into that.
Right.
Sega, look at me. I know you're watching this.
They are.
Don't do that. Don't.
It's true. It's true. It's like, just let's get over the fact that this is a series that doesn't belong on a Nintendo platform.
Yes.
And then when the hardware is powerful enough, let's like consider the opportunity.
Right.
You know?
I mean, clearly, the message I got from this whole thing is like, yeah, the Switch is the platform for everything. All games, new and old.
Yeah.
Great. And yes, I think it was, as some of these have been, a little remake heavy, but I'm not mad at that. Like, there are still plenty of new games coming out. These remake games are really high quality, really important games. Games that you could no longer play. Suikoden, Castlevania, like those games were locked away on those platforms. Like if you didn't have those, it's like you're out of luck.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want to drop all that money to play those, you're out of luck. Power Stone, great. So it's just so nice to have this console. It's like, yeah, anything I want to play from any kind of era, like we're getting closer to a point where it's like, yeah, almost everything is going to be on the
single system.
That is really nice.
The other thing that I kind of took away from, especially the partner showcase, is like there is a lot of good partner setup happening. You can tell that they're like working the relationships.
For the new My Sims game? From EA?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
EA though, they love EA. They want to get in with EA again. All the time they're wanting to get in with EA again. So I guess My Sims is the way to do it. Fine, whatever. FIFA. But I feel like that is a good necessary step that needs to be taken before the new Switch comes out. So that you have these really good relationships so that people are bringing their games day one to this new console, right? So yeah, I see it happening. I see this relationship building, like, as it plays out in these directs. Like, definitely that is one of their key criteria for what is getting into this thing.
Right.
You know?
No Silk Song.
No Silk Song. They don't care about
What's
that.
the deal with it? Well, it's not that they don't care. It's that the game is not available.
The game is not done and won't ever be.
So I said it's great of them doing a double feature. You can be disappointed twice, back to back. They could have put that in either one.
They could have, truly.
They could have closed either of these with a big Silk Song news. No.
But no.
0 for 2.
0 for 2.
Wow.
That's what you were saying. Disappointed twice.
Once you get stuck in the meme zone, it's hard to get out.
In the dumps
It's like,
twice.
It's like a bug in a jar. It's like you're just trying to crawl out.
I mean, you could just announce the game.
No.
That's the way to
Game's
crawl out
been
of the
announced.
jar.
Now I have to release it.
You could just release the game, or give us a release.
Just do it. It's that easy. Just make the game. Just release it.
I mean,
just make a 10 out of 10 game. Put it out. Anybody
wasn't
could do
that
it.
the intention all along, to make a game?
Piece of cake.
Where is it?
Okay.
If you announce something,
Now,
that means you're making it, right?
I think we both agreed in our reaction that this was like a BB plus
Together.
presentation.
Yeah.
Combined.
Combined.
Yeah, we don't need to rate them. Are you still feel like that was how you felt?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel pretty solid. I definitely like the Indie World Showcase a bit more than the partner direct. Partner direct, I thought it was solid, totally good. But I think you're right, where it's just a lot of sort of remakes and stuff, which is not like terrible, but it's just, that's just what it is. But yeah, B+, I would say, for both of these.
Okay. Let's dig into some big questions with this that are just going to get bigger as we keep going with them. For starters, so this kind of mashup of Indie and Nintendo Direct, should they have just done one single showcase and just said, here's all the stuff? Because it's all from third parties. I saw a few people pointing out, like, you're kind of doing these indies dirty. Of like, well, they're not big enough to make it into the partner showcase. So we'll kind of, and then they started it off with that. It's like, here's the appetizer before the main course, these indies.
But then they also had a Square Enix game in the Indie World Showcase. That Power Watch Simulator Shrek game. That's a Square Enix game. That's not an indie.
I remember last year, like, there was all the reckoning of like, remember the Dave the Diver controversy?
The drama, yes.
And we ourselves, like, in our game of the year, it's like, we're dropping any indie-focused separation of categories or anything.
Because
it's like, games are games.
Hard, yes.
They can stand, on the same level as these games from AAA studios now. We don't need these distinctions anymore. Did you feel weird about this?
I felt like it is a distinction that is not as needed these days.
Yeah.
Like, they could have just done one showcase. But Indie World is a brand that Nintendo has built.
Yeah.
And they have specific, and we worked on that brand a lot when they were launching that brand. And it is a brand that I don't think they want to get away from yet. And you know what the other thing is that it makes big publishers look good when they support indies. Like, that is like a feather in their cap. Like, when Nintendo, a huge publisher, says, like, we are supporting these indies on our platform, we're going to give them an avenue to share news about their game in front of a huge audience, that makes Nintendo look good.
I see what you mean.
So having that distinction is almost like Nintendo saying, hey, look at us. Like, we support indies.
Sure.
So I feel like that's why it's there. But in terms of the quality, the level, the games themselves, there's really not too much of a distinction between the two,
Yeah, I do think it was a little weird for them to do this, but again, I don't think it's something they're ever going to do again.
Yeah.
And again, like, they do have these distinct brands, so I can kind of live with it as a one-off. But as I started to see some more of those comments pile up, I was like, yeah, I wonder if you were, Pizza Tower. Like, do you feel a certain way about this? Because, like, that game is big enough where it's like, yeah, that probably could, in a different situation, be in a main direct. Nintendo Direct. And, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they're going to analyze the data on this. Like, how many people in that video just skipped straight to
direct.
I mean, I even saw some people in our community saying like, yeah, I don't usually watch Indie World, so this is kind of my first exposure to this, watching this stream.
Yeah.
You can look at that the flip side, though. It's like, yeah, you are bringing in potentially more people into the Indie World environment who maybe just weren't interested in it before.
Yeah, so. That's so true. And also, like, just given the content that they have right now, it just wouldn't have been enough, I don't think, for a singular one or the other. I think if it was only 20 minutes, it's a little light.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I can see them trying to pad it out on both sides.
Yes.
You know?
Next big question. Why was this in August and not September?
That is very curious.
So the pattern has been that these have typically been sort of mid-September, leading up. Everybody loves to point out, like any game that's going to be at TGS that is not announced yet needs to get announced.
Right.
So it served an important purpose of doing that.
It's like your last breath before the holidays too.
Right.
To get your stuff in.
Yeah, it's a great chance to announce any last games that are going to be out this year for the holiday and give those a big push. And I always advise people to not look too deeply into the patterns because the pattern can sometimes be a coincidence.
Yeah.
But in this case, the pattern was pretty well established. So I think it was surprising that this happened in August. And even there were rumors of this happening.
Yes.
And when you would bring it up, a lot of people didn't believe it. Or a lot of people were just not willing to get invested in the idea of this happening this week. And then it happened.
And I think this is the least amount of speculation leading up to a rumor direct that we've ever had.
So it really threw people off. There was the guy in Brazil who was kind of talking about this.
That's right.
He was the one. And obviously, we're now in an era where a lot of these leakers are in jail or worse. They're, the leak situation is very different than what it was with the last direct.
Right.
And maybe that played into it. But yeah, you just didn't hear a lot of the usual
chatter
noise leading up to this.
And even after it was announced, it seemed a little lackluster.
Muted.
Right? You were saying that people seem to be in a state of almost like confusion and disbelief. Like, why is this happening right now?
And almost like, I don't want to say apathy, but it did feel just less excitement.
Yeah.
Than it had been.
Why?
Yeah.
Is it because it's not a first-party direct?
I'm sure that has something to do with it.
That definitely has something to do with it.
Right.
Did they put this here because they do need to do a first-party direct in September? And that's when...
Well, that's our next question, which is, will there still be a first-party direct in September?
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I had heard people saying about why this was moved to August was, I guess at Gamescom, there was a lot of open discussion about the PS5 Pro.
I saw this, yeah.
And what the word on the street there was that was going to get announced in a state of play later in September.
That's yes.
So some people were saying, okay, Nintendo may have moved a lot of their stuff out of September to get away from that and avoid any sort of comparison because, guess what? A Switch game next to a PS5 Pro game...
It's not going to look good.
It's going to look different.
Yeah.
And obviously those are two systems that are in very different points of their life cycle, but I can kind of understand the logic of that we don't want to get too close to this because it's going to look bad for us. We're going into the holidays where people might be making a decision about which one to get, and just the wow factor, we can't match a PS5 Pro. I don't think at this point Nintendo is scared of Sony, but there's always
They're just carefully considering.
There is always a deep respect for Sony at this point, so I could see that being a decision that was made of let's just get away from this thing.
And I wonder if that specifically was related to third-party games, because that would be sort of the direct comparisons that you would see would be a third-party game running on a Switch and a third-party game running on a PS5 Pro.
Right.
So perhaps they moved this particular direct out of September to give that breathing room and not to, incite any of those comparisons. But the first party stuff, they're pretty safe there because the first party game is you can't run on it. You can't get that on a PS5, so it doesn't matter. So I could see that being a good sort of just strategic movement for them, kind of reversing those a bit. So that could make sense. But I did hear about that from Gamescom, and I thought about what that meant for the September Direct.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if it's first party only or really, really focused on first party stuff for the majority, that might be a safer path for them to take.
Do you have any other theories for why this would have been in August?
The other thing was just like, I kind of get the sense that they are jamming a lot of their...
Because we did just have this museum direct the week before.
I know.
We're gonna
That's
talk
what
about
I'm
that
saying.
later.
Yeah, it's like information. We need to like tie up these loose ends, like that feeling again, where it's like we have some other stuff that we need to talk about sooner rather than later. But before we can do that, we need to announce all of these other things, you know, and get all of that stuff out into the open to clear the runway for this.
Okay.
For more announcements, maybe switch to announcements later. So, yeah, I mean, it could be that situation where it's just a lot of, like, tying up, like, we've got to check this list off. You know, we have all these things that we haven't talked about yet. We need to talk about this before a certain time period, before we move people on to the different thing. So this is our last chance.
Yeah.
So jam it all in there.
All right. So, yes or no on the first party direct?
I think yes.
In September. You think yes?
I think yes.
Really?
Because I feel like they still need to...
So why would they not just jam this partner stuff into that?
Because of the Sony thing.
So you think it's going to be strictly first party? When was the last time we had a Nintendo Direct that was strictly first party?
A long time ago.
And what would they even put in this?
Better be some Q1 2025 games because there's none right now.
I feel a little bit differently. I do still feel like the information for Echoes of Wisdom is a bit light. I could see them doing a title direct on that. There are some big questions about that game that we still don't know.
Maybe.
And
Dungeons combat.
And it feels like they have an opportunity to really like seal the deal for that game as like...
But they need to tell us some of these Q1 games.
Why do they have to do that now? We have one. We have Donkey Kong in January. So...
If that Switch is not coming out until April, that's a huge gap of no first-party games. Or, like, not announced, not like...
They could still announce something. They just don't have to do it in a direct. Back to Twitter drops. Back to the pandemic.
But that seems weird to do for first-party games, unless the first-party games suck. Unless they're, like, really lame first-party games.
I mean, they'll still make a big deal about it.
Not if it's a Twitter drop.
No, I think they would.
Those feel really like... Those feel like they reserve those for, like, non-important stuff.
Well, we feel differently about it. I think their lineup for this year is very good. So I think they're feeling comfortable about that. They do have one game for Q1 announced, Donkey Kong Country Returns. They have a lot of these games. This kind of gets into our next point. A lot of these games that were announced were for 2025.
A lot of these third-party and indie games
was
were
a big theme that I noticed of like, oh gosh, there's a lot more for early 2025 than maybe I thought there was going to be.
They're absolutely trying to pad that calendar out because they know that Switch 2 is not coming out until later in 2025, as we've already noted.
Right.
So they're
is it the end of the
calendar.
world then if late in the Switch life cycle Nintendo doesn't have a release every single month? Is that really the end of the world?
I guess not.
I mean, I'm sure they'll probably have something for March, which is, the big end of fiscal hurrah. Mm-hmm. We all got to celebrate the end of the fiscal year. Pop some champagne.
Fiscally emotional.
On another great fiscal year. But I don't know if they need to do that now.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems a little, this is where it gets a little bit like, can these games sustain everybody on this platform for the next, 6 months?
Are you also like, if you're them, is there some aspect of like, we just got to get through this holiday season and maximize the holiday season, and then we're letting the chips fall as they may? I could see the faucet really getting turned to the off position.
That's true.
After the holidays.
It's like, this is your last
We've been very
holiday.
spoiled. A game a month from Nintendo for 7 years?
Yeah.
Really spoiled.
This is the last holiday for Switch.
PlayStation's lucky to get 2 games a year from Sony. My gosh.
I guess you gotta make the holiday season count. This is the last one.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying to all of the employees. at Nintendo right now. That's what the execs are saying. The leadership is saying is like,
we have to remain focused on the immediate goal of the holiday season.
Make it count. Last holiday
the critical OND period.
Oh God, please stop.
The line needs to go up.
Oh, the line.
The line.
We need to be in the green.
Yes.
Back in the green.
Working in business is just an RPG. You just want the number to go up. That's all it is.
Up is good. Down is bad. Yeah. It gets a little gnarly though.
All right, so then let's get into our last question. Was all of this just an attempt to make space to announce the Switch 2 next? And if it was, when is that going to happen? Because that was the conclusion I've seen so many people making. Like, okay, the deck is cleared.
Yeah.
Confirmed, Switch 2 is getting announced in October.
Oh.
Shocktober.
Shocktober?
What a shocking development for Shocktober.
I don't think so still. I really do feel like the Nintendo business team is like, no, you cannot like whisper any new information about this thing until after this holiday season wraps.
Right.
January though. January 1st. Not January 1st. January 5th. I feel like is gonna be Switch 2 time. That's why I'm like, do they have anything else coming out? Like, they might as well tell us, right? Like any other first party stuff coming out in that Q1 2025.
Freak out and release it all right now.
I mean, honestly, you might as well, right? Because you have this one last holiday, which you have a good, they have a good lineup for.
Yeah.
They have some good games for that.
So you don't, that's fine.
And then you want to tie people over until April. Let's say April is your timing for Switch 2. So you want something. You want just to give them a sense of like, all right, this is what I can plan for the next 4 to 6 months. And then you announce Switch early in 2025, Switch 2, sorry. And then that thing comes out whenever. Maybe it's even later than April. It might even be May or June. So
Well, right. So that report that we were talking about last week said the absolute earliest it could be out is April 1st.
Right.
And they were saying like, you know, that may be ambitious and it might be, you know, in a couple months. Around that is what people are hoping.
I think it's coming out May 18th.
And, on your birthday?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect. It's for me. Happy birthday to Krysta.
And the point that we've been making, and I think is still good to emphasize, is like they will make the decision that will set up Switch 2
for
best
success.
to have success.
Right.
Is announcing it in October for something that maybe isn't coming out until April, May, June?
That's why I don't think they're going to
Is that actually the best move for the Switch 2? I'm not sure it is either.
I don't think it is.
So I'm a little skeptical of an announcement in October. That's not saying that it can't happen. I think it could, but I lean more towards
next year.
That's a lot of time. They don't need a lot of time to do this. They need less time than you think.
They need less time than they did from Wii U to Switch, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that was like 4-ish months.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. That's
right, but they really didn't get started until January. They really had like an intense 2-month push.
Yeah.
On that thing.
And they're going to want to make sure that the system is going to launch with a really crazy lineup of games. So that's what they're going to get.
Right.
Like totally locked down before they announce this.
Right.
Thing.
So it's like, you know, your feelings are conflicting a little bit of like, is this what is, you know, from their perspective they're going to do, or is it just like what I want to have happen because I'm ready to get this thing? You know?
Yeah, but they don't want you to get it. They want you to play all these Switch games now.
Right. I do think the Switch has a potential to have one more big holiday season in it. But again, you know, they're at a point where now it's like, what is the best decision for Switch 2? If that steps on the Switch 1 holiday, they'll do that. But I just don't know if that, in their eyes, is the best move.
Right, exactly. And I do think that they want to not only set up Switch for a great last holiday in its life, but also they want to set us up, the people that are buying the stuff, for the waiting period between the holiday, the early part of 2025, and before we get all the information that we're going to get about Switch 2. They want to set us up so that we're like not going to fall off of the Nintendo ecosystem.
Well, if you got no games for Q1, you can announce a system and people won't care. That's one way to get them to stop being worried about that.
I mean, I feel like they can move people over in a better way, though. Like, there's probably going to be a lot of dual SKU games. You know, we talked about that already. So there's an opportunity for them to do that. But there's, like, a smoother transition that can happen. If they have, like, 4 to 5 months to transition, that's, like, not bad, you know? But you got to announce some first-party games, though.
All right, you're extremely worried about what's going to happen in February.
I'm not worried. I'm just saying. Like,
You're hitting the panic button right now.
I'm not. It's not my panic. I don't care. I don't work there anymore. I don't give a tiny rat's booty about it. I get to sit here and play these great indie games in 2025. I don't care.
All right.
It's fine with me.
Okay. So we're maybe suggesting gently pump the brakes on the confirmations that this is getting announced in October.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of that. I do think...
We're not 100% ruling it out, though.
No, I mean... It's,
we are now within the realm... We're in the window of the realm of possibility.
Oh, the window of the
Yes.
realm of.
Right.
What a weird place
But
to
if
be.
I had to bet, I would bet on a little bit more or so on not.
What's your over-under on that?
Yeah. Huh?
What's your over-under on that?
On what? When?
Just, yeah.
I don't know how to answer that question.
You're not a betting man.
I don't do gambling, so I don't actually know what that means.
Over-unders, you don't
Yes. Okay.
know. All right.
Did this direct and indie thing leave you with any other major questions?
The first party question is my only question.
Okay.
Truly, you need to understand the plans for that for Q1.
Okay. Let's move on then.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Museum, that was a direct that happened a week ago.
Yes, it was.
Believe it or not. We
Yes,
finally
it
got to
was.
see what's going on in there. Great little video with Mr. Miyamoto, looking wonderful as ever.
Yeah.
We all, believe it or not, we also have a reaction to that. So we will not go through every single detail here, but kind of want to go through the high points and there's been some other things that we were able to find that's worth talking about. So opens October 2nd, sadly, maybe 10 days after we leave Japan. Oh well.
We're not getting into this thing on opening weekend. Let's be real.
It's got 3 areas. It's broken into learn, experience, and create and play are the 3 main chunks. People will get these kind of virtual coins when they go into the museum on their little badge, and they can do some of those mini game experiences. You cannot experience all of them with the 10 coins that you have. But what if I really want to? Can I DLC more coins in the museum?
Or do you need to buy another ticket?
What's the V-Bucks to coins?
The conversion rate.
What is the conversion
What
rate?
is the conversion rate from
Look,
the
I brought all
V-Bucks
these
to
V-Bucks
coin?
with me.
I wonder if you can just buy another ticket.
Oh my gosh.
But they probably won't let you.
That's extreme. They have already started offering tickets. It is done completely via a random lottery.
They love the lottery.
Yeah, so it says now accepting drawing entries for October and November tickets. And it looks like you can just kind of choose a window of time for when you want to go and put yourself into that lottery. You do need a Nintendo account to make a reservation.
Okay.
And I think the tickets were like $30 for,
not bad.
for adults.
Yeah, and
so
like $11 for a kid.
Seems pretty good.
It's actually really reasonable for a museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they're doing the lottery because
It's going to be a mad...
I mean, if it was just,
Absolutely.
stay up until midnight and get it when the thing refreshes, like that does kind of rule out a lot of people. I think this is how they do a lot of console like pre-orders in Japan. It is a lottery, which...
And for like Nintendo Live, they do lotteries and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can debate what is or isn't, more or less fair. I think this is probably as fair as you can do it.
Yeah, it's all random, so you can't really make a lot of plans until you know.
Very true.
That's the only thing.
I wonder
if people are traveling.
I wonder what the turnaround is from when you enter the lottery to when it gets drawn and Yeah. So to us, I actually we don't feel bad about not being able to go to this because
I can't deal with
we
that
have a lot
now.
of things we are going to be doing on this trip, and having this hang over our heads of are we or aren't we going to this museum? What are we going to be doing to get into this museum?
It's
Is it going to be
too
like
much.
hanging over our heads for the whole time? It's kind of not something that would have been super fun to deal with, especially also what is the experience of going to this museum and literally the first 2 weeks that it's going to be open.
It's madness.
Probably not great. So
Yeah,
kind of
absolute madness.
Kind of like Super Nintendo World. Might be something to revisit in a year.
It's going to be there.
Right.
It's not like going away.
It's only going to get better.
Exactly. It's
Right.
probably going to be working out some kinks.
Unless
you
you absolutely feel like you need to be the first person to step
I'm not
foot.
like that at all.
Right.
I actually dislike that because I feel like when you go like opening weekend to something,
Yeah.
it's always like a mess.
It's a little rough.
You know, it's really
Yeah.
rough.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's copium, maybe it's not, but that's kind of how we're feeling about it as it relates to ourselves and our trip. They did post some guidelines about photography and video.
I saw, yeah.
In Exhibition Building 1, photography is allowed in the interactive exhibits, but not in the exhibition area.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? I don't know. Is there some place where you cannot take pictures?
Maybe, I don't know. Is it when you're like interacting with, what's an exhibition?
Well, the interactive exhibits, like that's the stuff where you are,
doing the thing.
swinging the bat in the living
Yeah,
room,
the giant
or
wheel
shooting
remote.
the giant zapper. Not in the exit. Like, is that like kind of that big ring with all of the games?
You can't take
This
pictures
is like
of
the
that?
Redmond Museum all over again.
Yeah, so I don't know if people know this, but like in the Nintendo office in Redmond, the headquarters, the
Yeah.
NOA headquarters, they built this beautiful museum.
Which frankly looks very similar to
which
this one.
actually looks
This kind of big ring,
identical to
ring
this.
type thing.
Just a little smaller,
Yeah.
but I mean, it had like all of the historical, like it's kind of like these exhibits where
Yeah.
it's like old consoles, whatever. But they were so like strict about photography that all of the exhibits were
It
covered
was covered the whole time.
all the time.
I never saw that museum
I peeked under the curtain
because it was
like,
so
one time,
rarely actually available for people to see.
which is shocking because
was
it's
kind of-
inside of an employee building.
Kind of a ridiculous thing. Well, I think they're going to learn the hard way if they're trying to stop people from taking pictures of a NES box or something.
But is that what it is?
I don't know. And then they just have a link to their kind of content guidelines.
Oh, God, yeah.
For using that stuff, which I mean, it's what YouTubers and other people use. It's fine. Like people don't need to be worried about that.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, just you do whatever. Yeah.
it's totally fine. I thought this was interesting regarding visiting in costume. Parentheses cosplay.
Oh, cosplay.
Please refrain from visiting the Nintendo Museum in any sort of costume. In addition to costumes, please refrain from wearing clothes. Yada yada.
Don't reveal your undergarments.
Oh no. So costumes. How did you feel about this?
This is very similar to Disneyland, where they don't let you dress up in costume when you go to Disneyland.
But isn't there a reason in Disneyland because they actually have people in a costume there?
True. They actually have people on. I guess they don't
Are there
have.
going to be a big Mario walking around?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe that's why. I don't know. Or maybe they don't want you to be confused to be an exhibit. Like you're in a costume and they're like, you're a part of the exhibit because I'm interacting with you now.
Well,
I have no clue.
I included this here because we do know like cosplay is not something that
They
they
hate cosplay.
recognize officially
Yeah.
anymore. So it's like, what exactly is their rationale for this?
Yeah.
Is it some risk of confusion? If so, then it's like, okay, I can understand that. But if it's just like, we don't like this and we don't want it in here, I think that kind of sucks.
I think it's probably a bit of both. Like they probably justified it away with some of those points about like it can cause confusion, blah blah. But mainly, I think they don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
Well, what am I going to do if I didn't read the fine print and I fly to Japan and I show up in my Tingle costume and I got nothing underneath? Are they going to send me away?
You can't
What
show
are they
your
gonna do?
undergarments or reveal your skin.
There are no undergarments. What are they going to do?
Oh,
I have no.
you
I
have to leave.
I have this and I have nothing. What
You
would
can
you
buy
like?
something from the museum store to go over the Tingle costume. Maybe some sort of
Run to the Uji
t-shirt?
matcha
Uniqlo?
museum and get some clothes there.
Get some Uniqlo. Get your Uniqlo like little outfit on. I don't know.
Oh, man.
They're very strict, aren't they? They really want to like really control what you're wearing in this thing, which is like kind of. I don't know. That's like just a weird thing. It's
Right.
very like mom
So-
is not letting me leave the house because my crop top is too short.
So
like,
the interesting
okay.
thing here is, with Super Nintendo World, they've always had these partners who have known how to operate these sorts of things.
That's true.
It's like Universal. It's like, yeah, we know how to do this. Like, leave
Yeah.
that stuff to us.
Yeah.
Who are they leaving it to here?
Is there like a curator or like some kind of museum specialist that is doing?
Well,
kind of
that's a single person, but it's not like the museum company. They have not partnered with Museums Inc. to make the Nintendo Museum,
That's
know?
true,
So it's
yeah.
like they're kind of left to their own devices to
Which is
figure
weird
this stuff
devices.
out, which they could come to the wrong conclusions
Their
about some of this
devices are
stuff.
very strange sometimes. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be interesting how some of these things play out.
It is. And I think they'll learn, from
They might have to learn the hard way a couple of times.
That's why you don't go on opening weekend.
Yeah.
You go after they learn the hard way and then they fix it. And you don't have like some horrible experience that's going to sour your trip to Japan or your like trip to the museum because you didn't read the fine print or it was like done in a weird way or you get like your wrist slapped for something that's like really silly. All of those things are possible. So yeah, it's going to be a good learning opportunity for them for sure. That's a really good point about having not like someone that is an expert in this type of experience.
On their site, it's a great site. If you click through to the restaurant and the store, they do very specifically call it like restaurant operated by blank company, store operated by. So there are some where they've like, we are handing this over to let this company run.
Yeah, because they don't know how to run a restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the museum, it seems to be
run
them
by them,
starting this whole new thing from scratch that they have no experience in.
Yeah. I mean. Sounds easy. Sometimes it's like, I'm just putting this stuff in a glass case. But
I think it's hard.
I was going to say, I think it's really, really, really hard to create a experience that, makes sense for people.
So, after seeing the direct, I think it's worthwhile to ask the question of like, why does this thing exist? Like in their minds, like what was the purpose of building a museum? And who is it for also?
Yeah, that's a really good question to ask because they're not doing something. Nintendo never does anything for the pure fact of like, this is a cool thing that we want to do.
Yeah, or it's like, we're riding high, we got all this money, what are you going to do? Oh yeah, build a museum, that would be fun.
Yeah, they're not doing something because it's fun.
There is some
cool
strategic purpose.
Yeah, they always have another motive.
Right. Is this audience expansion? Like the theme park? Like a movie?
Based on some of the interactive experiences, it seems to be one part that. There is a secondary part of like deepening your relationship with Nintendo. And the one thing that I see like really clearly is they do want that kind of like multi-generational audience.
Yeah.
Like they want the dad to take the little kid to the Nintendo museum and be like, look, son, I played this thing when I was your age. Like they want that experience. Mm-hmm. And they want to get these little kids like ingrained through their parents and through these like...
Grandpa gets one more go with the wiffle bat in the living room.
Grandpa is like in the living room. Grandma is holding a giant Wii remote. Playing the bowling is happening once again in the nursing home. Like they really do want like that kind of generational kind of experience. I think the purpose is like, yes, it is part of their like audience expansion strategy, but it's also very much that like, let me bring in this new audience through this one angle of nostalgia and history.
I don't know if I can call it audience expansion because it's a single location in a country that you have to go visit unless you're Japanese.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of like, I need to take many steps to visit this thing.
Not like a movie where you can just go see a movie.
Right, exactly. It's like, I'm in a theme park. Yeah, I'm going to go have fun in a theme park. So it does feel a little bit different than that. It does feel like them like really putting a stake in the ground of like, there's other companies that do games, but like we are the company and we're going to tell you why. And we do have this rich history. So it does feel a little bit different than some of these other ventures that we have had.
It also feels a little bit more like highfalutin. I don't know if that's the right description for it, but like I always thought this when we were working at Nintendo and like just the way that they operated, they did have a little bit of the snobbiness where they're like, we're above it all. Like we're above all these dirty game companies that do whatever. Like we would never put our characters in Fortnite and give them a gun. That's disgusting. Who would do that?
Sure.
Like, we are very, like, we're civilized, And, like, having a museum is, like, the most civilized thing you could do. It's so, like, shishi in that way. It's like, we're Nintendo. We have a museum.
You have somebody in a gown playing the piano.
I know, it's like a
piano Super Mario Brothers.
It's like going to be like a string quartet in the lobby. You're like coming in your like 3-piece suit or whatever. But yeah, that is so their vibe is like we are so above it all.
Right.
Like we're so like like sophisticated that we're gonna have this beautiful museum as a way to showcase our history. Like that is so Nintendo, you know? And it's cool because, hey, they do have such a rich history that they can show.
Right.
So it's not like they're making it up. You know, it's like totally, you know, like they totally have like the chops to do it. But that is their vibe. Like they just like to kind of be like a little bit more, a little bit more sophisticated, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked that because those were some of the questions that went through my mind after watching the direct.
Yeah.
Because I think I realized that I am not the target audience.
You are not the target audience.
For this museum.
No, and I'm not either.
So let's get into our deeper impressions. Of this thing.
Yeah. So we kind of were a little bit worried about the museum even before we
Well, the day before that direct got announced, I told you I was like, I kind of feel the same way I did before the Mario movie trailer
like if this
came
thing
out.
is like really bad,
if this thing tanked, like I'm gonna feel bad personally.
Yeah.
About that.
But also even before that, when we were thinking about like, because we always know what they're actually doing versus it like it's cool to open a museum, you know, like what they're actually doing is really different from it's cool to open a museum.
Right.
And you were saying like months ago, you were like I'm kind of worried that
was one of my predictions for
that
this
it's gonna
year.
be
it's
like,
going to be mildly disappointing.
And it is.
And I think that's how I felt about it. I did feel mildly, but again, I had the realization like, oh, this isn't for me.
It's not for you.
So I can't say that it's bad, but it's just not what I would have wanted out of a Nintendo museum. I think if you are, you know, a less serious, less invested fan of Nintendo and games, you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, if you're 8 years old, and you've not grown up with these historical Nintendo game systems, and your parents bring you to the Nintendo Museum and you get to make a Hanafuda card and you get to play, that's great.
Shouldn't we have anticipated this? Isn't this kind of shame on us?
Yes.
We should have. We're going to do it in a Nintendo way. We're going to zag on the concept of a museum. We're going to deliver a type of museum that's never been seen before. We really should have seen that coming.
We should have seen
Shame on us.
Yeah, we got lulled into a sense of what we wanted, which is never what they wanted to do.
Exactly.
I think it's definitely not for me. I think it's cool. There are aspects of it that seem like it's really like I do want to go make a Hanafuda card. That's cool.
Now we should say there is probably a lot of stuff in that museum that they didn't show
yet.
So we cannot say definitively.
Yeah, you gotta go.
This is not there, or they have to add this.
But the things that they highlighted,
the
things that they highlighted is a little bit different than what I was expecting.
Yes.
Like it was very focused on these interactive experiences, and it's very similar to some of the museums around, you know, that we've been to that have like a focus on that. It's a different kind of museum experience. Like the Exploratorium in San Francisco, for example, is...
You keep mentioning the Exploratorium. I don't think people know what that is.
It's basically...
It's a hands-on science museum.
It's a hands-on science museum, but you can do the things that you see showcase at the Nintendo Museum where you could like swing a bat and it'll like measure the velocity of your swing. You can learn about that, physics, whatever.
Yeah.
But that is exactly what this reminds me of. And you know who's going to the Exploratorium? Little kids.
Yeah.
Because they want to touch the stuff, you know? It definitely has that like sense of it being more focused on the playing part versus the historical museum part of it.
Yeah.
The historical museum part of it is what I'm actually more interested in. Like I would have loved to see maybe it's there and they just didn't show it, and that's totally cool. We'll hopefully get to, you know, see more of it when it opens and people are there. But like I would like to know like the development history, the history of the company.
I have a massive question for you.
What?
Is any individual person mentioned by name in this museum? Is Mr. Miyamoto called out by name in any exhibit in this museum?
Oh man, I was hoping that there was going to be some like display.
A statue or something?
Not a statue. Oh jeez. But like some kind of like, what is like, you know, a cool way to display like the development history of the first Mario game? Like, is there design documents? Is there old photographs?
Is there a picture of the team? It's like,
Yeah.
like, you know, knowing how Nintendo feels now, it's like I could see them going down the path of like we're not
doing
mentioning
this.
or acknowledging any individual developers all the way down to Mr. Miyamoto.
That would make me feel
which is
really
like,
badly
that's a
about it.
decision. I don't think that's the best decision for a museum that is
No.
about like the history of these things. That he is part of the very important history of these things.
Like I had imagined like
you don't go to, it's like, oh, well, here's the Mona Lisa. Who did that? It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. You don't need to know about the artist. Just look at this beautiful painting.
Just admire the work.
Yeah. No, seriously. And like in my brain, I envision like, again, like this is what I would have wanted. It was like, this area where you can see the development history. You would have video interviews that you can like listen to
Right.
where people are telling oral history about what it was like, working the early days or
Right.
whatever. Like I imagine that. We didn't see that. Could be there, but we didn't see that.
So I was just thinking, like, what is the additional layer of information about Nintendo that only Nintendo can deliver, that only they have,
Yeah.
that they could put into a museum? And I don't know that I necessarily saw any of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Is like, oh yeah, we got this showcase of games. It's like, I could go to Chris Kohler's basement, and he's got all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's probably got more.
It's probably got more.
Right.
They didn't have that knitting machine.
And it's also like, what, I want to go to a museum to learn something new. And I get
Yeah.
it. It's like, we know more than Joe Schmo who's going to be walking into this museum, maybe. I didn't really get the sense that I would come away from that learning a lot about
Yeah.
this thing that I'm so
Passionate
invested
about.
in.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Yeah, like the display of the historical consoles and stuff, it's cool, but you have seen that. If you are a Nintendo fan, you probably have seen those things in one place or another.
Right.
It's fun that they've collected it all for you in one place, but what are you actually learning about the history, about the DNA of this company, about how they became what they became? I don't know if we are learning that.
Something I do really appreciate, and maybe an aha moment for a lot of people who go in there, is like how much time and space they're devoting to pre-gaming Nintendo.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate that,
Yeah.
and I think that's nice, and I think that's important. And it's not, I don't know what the right ratio of space dedicated to gaming versus pre-gaming stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very happy that it seems to be there. And frankly, they put a lot of emphasis on that in the Direct.
They did, yeah.
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 The other thing that kind of threw me off is like, when we were there, like, we were always told, like, Nintendo Direct is for our most hardcore fans.
Mm-hmm.
And there would sometimes be suggestions of like, well, here's how we can broaden the audience. And the response back was,
No.
we don't want it.
We don't want to.
We like that this is our vehicle for talking to those people. So if this is what they are delivering to that audience, again, it's like, if there is any more sort of like, nitty gritty stuff, why would you not show it to those people who are watching this Nintendo Direct?
Yeah.
Or tuning into this live stream because they want to see.
Exactly. Your most engaged audience would want to
Right.
desperately see
Yeah.
some of that behind the scenes stuff. I get worried because they're so averse now to showing behind the scenes stuff that even in a museum setting where that is sort of the point of a museum.
I mean, even behind us, we have these are things that they were showing when it was the anniversary of Super Mario Brothers. These
Yeah.
are like copies of some of these original design documents. Like,
Yeah.
we have this on our podcast set.
Don't draw attention to it. We have some other things.
These are not originals.
We have some other things.
this
and
is
just
nothing-
don't come to the studio.
This is nothing to be worried about. But yeah. And then the
Yeah.
other thing, they have these interactive exhibits, which, a lot of people like, but it's like, Super Nintendo World's like not far from like if you want an interactive, like kind of more play-based Nintendo experience, like that's there. That exists.
That game where you're shooting the shadows, that's like legit.
That was
almost
very much out of
exactly one of the little Bowser's Jr.'s castle that we did.
Right.
You're not shooting it, but it's the same. It's the same technology.
Very similar to that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of experiences, and some of them are definitely feel different. Like the ones based around the Hanafuda cards. That's really cool because that's such a
that's neat.
fun part of Nintendo's pre-gaming history that I'm really interested in, and I always want to learn how to play Hanafuda. But there are some of those experiences in the interactive stuff that felt very much like Super Nintendo World. They looked really fun. I still want to do them, but yeah, it's different than more of a traditional museum experience, right? So, yeah.
So yeah, I had all this kind of anxiety built up around what this would be, and although it was not what I want, I didn't feel bad about it because I was like, they just went in a completely different direction,
Exactly.
which is fine.
Yeah.
And we need to see what else is in there. So I'll
That's
wait.
how I
I'll
felt
wait
too.
for the people who have a chance to go. Mr. Sakurai has been there. Good for him. It seems like they've been taking some VIPs through, which they should.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did ask our Patreon subscribers, we did a poll asking them how they felt about it. 49% of people said it's incredible, everything I could have hoped for.
Good.
33% said I have a few gripes, but overall I'm really happy with it. 15% said it's not really what I was hoping for, but there are some cool things in the museum. And then 3% said I'm disappointed in what they showed us. Just a big fat thumbs down.
Oh, no.
Dre says, it seems like the Nintendo Museum is representing the idea that games are for playing with other people, even building community with them, which is a refreshing perspective on video games. Museum exhibitions don't just collect cool things, they're supposed to tell a story and then reinforce that story with the installations and artwork they display. This is based on a few minutes of footage, so I'm interested in how the rest of the space is created. I think that's very well said.
Really, really well said.
Michael Major says, it's pretty neat. If I were to visit Kyoto, I would check it out just since I've been a Nintendo fan for so long, but it's not something I'm dying to see. My gripes with it are that Nintendo has always been very conservative about how they present their history, and that shines through in this museum. I would have wanted to see it being more educational beyond what you'd find out by reading a few Wikipedia articles about Nintendo. Like, they should have more to read, showcase more of the ups and downs of Nintendo's history, include interviews and statements from industry veterans, and overall give a closer look inside Nintendo as a company. I'm not surprised they don't seem interested in making the museum that deep, but that's still what I think would better fit the definition of a, quote, Nintendo museum.
Yes, so well said. I agree with that.
And finally, Vincent Van Butler says, it looks like a great expansion of the showcase they usually put on at places like the Nintendo store in New York. My only concern is how they'll handle the crowds. The Nintendo store opened November 2019, and when I went on a weekday in February 2020, the line to get in the store still took several hours to get through.
Oh, jeez.
Considering how difficult it already is to get into the Ghibli Museum and the Kirby Cafe in Japan, I have a feeling attractions like controlling a giant Wiimote and Hanafuda card painting might be too popular if the capacity is severely limited.
That room that Mr. Miyamoto was doing the little baseball was the tiniest room. It was like no bigger than the room that we're sitting in now.
Right, it's for one person.
How do you get through the line?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that seems like it's.
I mean, with the lottery, they're at least limiting how many people go in.
Yeah.
At a time.
That's true.
So maybe that's their solution. It's like there's just not going to be.
Yeah.
We will control the line by how many people go inside.
True. Yeah. But that crowd control can be a real downer if you just feel like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Something else that happened in the world of Nintendo. We got just so much news.
Oh, man.
Animal Pocket Camp is going to be going offline.
Yeah.
They put out this notice. Thank you for playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. Service for the Animal Crossing Pocket Camp smartphone app will end on November 28th, 2024. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to everyone who has supported the title since service began. We will continue to hold events and add items until the service end date. You should also know that we are developing a version of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp that users can continue to play with their existing saved data. We plan to share details around October 2024, so we ask for your patience until then.
Are they making a Switch game for it?
So this was kind of a highs and lows moment for people who are playing this, because at first it's like, oh no, I still play and enjoy this game and it's going away.
Right.
But it seems like the reaction was people were generally happy with this idea of an offline version.
Right.
That doesn't have
the
all
transactions,
of the... it says here in their little FAQ, no in-app purchases or subscription services like
required.
Pocket Camp Club. So you are going to lose some features, doing gifts, visiting other people's places because it's completely offline. Mm-hmm. But the sentiment towards this seemed to be mostly okay. Like nobody was crushed among people who are still playing this.
Yeah, it seems like more so you're just like trying to do your own thing, like collect your own stuff. You're not really doing a lot of the like visiting other people or the multiplayer stuff really with this game.
Yeah. So it does become, one of another mobile games that Nintendo has now discontinued. Obviously, this one will live on in a different way, but Miitomo, Dr. Mario World, Dragalia Lost. I saw so many people saying, give us the offline version of Dragalia Lost.
I know. A lot of people would probably play that.
Yeah. So that is a pretty, hefty list. And now, big IPs like, Animal Crossing kind of couldn't, they had to move on. As far as active games, they do still have Mario Kart Tour, Fire Emblem Heroes, and Pikmin Bloom.
Yeah.
Pikmin Bloom.
Do you play any
No.
of these games? Mario Kart Tour, a little bit dabbled in that a little
I still
bit.
am a bit flummoxed at why Mario Kart Tour did not become bigger. I mean, by all accounts, it's a pretty big game.
Yeah.
It just seems like it should be massive.
Yeah,
But
it just doesn't really work on a phone.
It just isn't. Yeah, the experience of playing it is not
quite one-to-one, so it just doesn't feel very complete.
But you just think a Mario Kart game on a phone just seems like a slam dunk.
I know.
So I don't know. Oh, and then I haven't even mentioned Mario
Run,
which is still it. They still do add some stuff to that, but that's almost like an offline game at this point.
Fire Emblem Heroes is pretty popular, I think.
Yeah,
I think
that is
maybe the most popular one.
The big success story of Nintendo in mobile, but it's been a while since we had any new
updates,
mobile game announced, new mobile game added. So it just feels like they are really not prioritizing mobile gaming anymore.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense, when they did that, they were at a point of extreme vulnerability, with the Wii U not doing well, not having, there was no guarantee that the Switch would do what it did. So I understand the decisions of why they did that. And I don't think anybody now is second guessing that decision, but I think their mindset is we just don't, this is not our priority right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think they wanted to not feel left behind in the mobile game area because it's just so popular. And there is still I still believe that there is a lot of opportunity, in other markets like Asia, for example. The mobile game market in Asia is
that was a major point that they
massive,
made when this was starting up. Yes.
Right. So there could be, we may not be, seeing it as much in the US, but there could be opportunities still in other markets that would make sense to do this. But yeah, I think they don't prioritize this. It was always a bit of an afterthought when Switch became so successful. I wonder what the transition is going to be like for these mobile games now too, now that the new console is on the horizon as well. How does that now work? They need to put a significant amount of resources and energy into making Switch 2 a success. Does mobile games continue to be something that they do, or do
we ever get another? Is another Nintendo mobile game ever announced?
Exactly?
I'm asking you. Is it?
I don't think for a while. Yeah, I think they're going to be really focused on launching the new console. I'm not sure if they would have the resources and the energy to do something
Poor
else.
Mr. Kono, Nintendo legend, Hideki Kono's just stuck grinding out Pikmin Bloom updates for the rest of his career?
Move him on to Switch 2. Yeah, there's things to do.
Gosh.
He's got other stuff to do.
That poor man.
Yeah, that's...
I think we do. I do think we get another game announced because like you said, there is a strategic reason for this to exist. There are audiences that they're, no matter how big the Switch or the Switch 2 gets, the penetration of hardware into those places is just not
really hard,
going to happen the way it is in other places. So there is a good reason. I think they were still feeling out what is the right mix of IP plus gameplay experience.
Yeah.
Pokemon's doing great with mobile games. Maybe
they really are.
Maybe go out to lunch with the guy from Pokemon and pick their brain.
Pick his brain a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
What IP would work? Kirby, maybe? It would be a good one, maybe for a younger audience to get into it on an iPad or something. That could be an angle. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for them to
it is,
kind of figure out the balance.
It is tricky though for them to go from all in to now it's bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's maybe you should keep it on a bit more of an even keel.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time since really much of anything has happened.
And it's really interesting how there is moments when we were at Nintendo, there were these moments right kind of around the pandemic where we got to make mobile games a thing. This is the time. So they kind of go through these cycles of trying to make it a thing.
Yeah.
It never really grabs.
What was the game that you were involved in where you had those all-night meetings?
It was Tour. Mario Kart Tour.
Oh, okay.
Was the one that I was working on a lot. And it was sort of that feeling this should be bigger. Maybe if we do more marketing, etc., we can do something. And it never really hit.
No. It didn't.
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting phenomenon. You know,
No.
like you have the audience, you have the
They
brand
need to start doing
recognition.
those clickbait ads for mobile games where
Oh my
it's
God.
like
You like watch the fire,
the
and
tiny man and the giant
the-
woman,
yeah.
and they're Gatling gunning 9,000 zombies.
Or it's like that thing where it's like grandma has
Yeah.
a secret.
We need that.
We need that.
We need that. All right, one more news story, not Nintendo related. You told me to cut this from the news. I don't know
You
why.
really want to know? I was like, okay, fine.
This is a big deal. This is a big thing that's going on.
Fine.
We have another breakout hit. It is the year of coming out of nowhere breakout hit.
I love it.
Black Myth Wukong. This is honestly a figure from a couple days ago, so I'm not sure exactly what it's at
Might be
now.
more.
But as of then, 10 million units sold across all platforms, had 3 million concurrent players across all platforms.
Incredible.
Was really high up there in the Steam all-time charts
Yeah.
of, concurrent players. Remember Pal World not long ago. We had
Was-
Pal World.
We had Helldivers
too.
Yep. Now Black
Put this
Myth
on the list.
Wukong. Yeah.
Of just these games, new IP. I guess Helldivers is not a new IP, but it's new. I think it's new to most people.
It's new to most people. Yeah.
Just having huge
Blockbusters.
breakout
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
And the story that this is based on is like, you tell me, like pretty. Everybody in China knows about this, right?
Yeah. I grew up reading a lot of, or my mom would read me a lot of stories about the mythology around Sun Wukong, which is Wukong, this character, this monkey character. There's a lot of like children's books. I remember even growing up watching like a cartoon when I was in China that was all about his adventures.
It's just kind of like perpetually popular, like storytelling material for
Yeah,
all
it's like
ages,
fairy
right?
tales, basically. Fairy tales will always be popular because of a good storytelling.
Right. There's a movie by Stephen Chow who did Shaolin Soccer.
Yes.
I still have the old junky VCD of that from when I was living in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
I found a lot of. I didn't realize I had that much monkey material in my house. I found that movie. I found the book that I read in high school, and then I found like a multi-part. I was like, I don't remember buying this. I had definitely not read it, but it was like a 4-part, like big, like Journey to the West, the whatever.
Oh.
There was that game by Ninja Theory,
Yes.
Enslaved,
yeah.
Journey to the West, that is much more loosely based on it than this. But
but this is one of those things where it's like these ancient mythology, the stories do have a place, especially in modern gaming storytelling.
Yeah.
Like you see so much like good material, like Hades, Greek myths. Everyone loves that.
Yeah.
Like it's just perpetually popular.
Right.
I think that's what this game sort of has going for it. But it is surprising that this sort of not as well known. I think Chinese mythology may not be as well known as Greek mythology, but this absolutely became like a breakout.
Yeah. I do want to check this out. I just don't know when. We're getting into this crazy September stretch where it's like, oh.
I'm really interested in playing this because it is a depiction from my childhood.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how they've changed it up. And there's a lot of like bits of the story that I really remember, really like, I don't know, almost like vividly remember. But yeah, I really wonder how they've, changed it as well.
Yeah. That's finally 1 hour and a half into this podcast. The news.
The news.
Games we're playing. Monster Hunter Wilds. We have a whole video up on Monster Hunter Wilds. Have you had any other realizations about this game?
I need to play
since you
more
last
of
played
this
it?
game. I really do.
So no.
I did realize, I was reading some of the comments, a lot of people are like really new to Monster Hunter, I realized.
Yeah.
And people were just wondering about like, what is the gameplay like and all that stuff. And
Oh.
yeah, so it is interesting. Like, I feel like I've been a fan of this series for a long time, so it is like, they do have some Monster Hunter quirks, that I think we all know now pretty well, but new people might not. Like, I saw a lot of people asking, like, do you see the health bar of the monster?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, actually, that's one of the cool things about this game is, like, you have to look at the monster itself for signs of it, getting close to, you getting close to, like, ending it, like the limping away and, like, the bleeding and all that stuff. So, really interesting. This game has a lot of these types of little quirks that make it both, interesting and a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do think that this new Monster Hunter Wilds, like they smooth out a lot of that stuff. So I'm excited for new people to check this one out because I think they're gonna really like this game.
That is
Hopefully,
interesting
yeah.
that the series has been around for 20 years and has been on this really positive trajectory of bringing in more people outside of Japan.
Yeah.
But it's just not yet big enough where everybody knows it
I
that way
know.
that you might think.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting challenge for Capcom of, this is such a huge opportunity. Because it seems like this one, a lot of those older games have some quirks
Exactly.
about how they play.
Yeah.
And this one does seem like the one that is really poised to break out in a more mainstream way.
Right.
Like, you do kind of need to start from scratch, though.
You do.
With a lot of people.
Yeah, I was surprised by those comments, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I thought everybody knew this.
Yeah. The one
but
thing,
there you go.
The one thing that you shared that I still am really excited for is the prospect of being able to have the two weapons at once.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So
So cool.
when you played, were you able to pick your two weapons, or was
yeah.
there something that was preset for you?
No,
so
you
they
can
had all
pick-
the weapons out
yes.
there?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Because the idea of doing something, more melee and more ranged, the combination of that seems really good.
Yeah.
Because I've never really committed to doing a ranged weapon in a Monster Hunter game.
Right.
Because it's like, well, you're going to get a point where this thing's just charging you, and then what do you do?
And then you don't have time to
trying to
run
reload my
away
bow and arrow.
Yeah.
So
I
being
like
able
the idea,
to switch
too.
over. Do you have any early... You're going to do dual blades.
Dual blades are probably my
Boring.
main- No, I love dual blades. I am interested in the hunting horn now, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because the idea of using it to buff
Right.
my primary weapon is very interesting to
Yeah.
me. Bowgun is the other one that I played a lot of before.
Is that the one that's like a sniper? Because there's also the heavy bowgun, right?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
the regular bowgun.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I wanted to try like the more like samurai sword looking one too, like the long sword.
long sword. Yeah.
That one looks pretty
Okay.
cool. It's just slow.
Yeah.
I like the speed of the dual blades.
Yeah.
You know.
I really like the lance. I think
Oh,
I
that's
think
right,
the
you like the
lance
lance.
is maybe what I'm destined for
Okay.
in Monster Hunter, because you do have range. You have a shield. You can block. You're very like
Mm-hmm.
stalwart. You just like I'm anchor yourself down, and you're gonna block this stuff and counter it.
Yeah, that's true.
But-
That is how you play a lot of these
Yeah.
games, like
the
almost
insect,
like a tank.
the insect glaive, I
glaive, yeah.
played in 4 and really liked that, and I've been seeing some of the updates they've been doing on that. But yeah, I do want to pair it up with. I really this game am going to figure out one of these range weapons, but it feels like switching is the best way to do it.
And it's so easy to switch too.
It just feels
It's
like
it's one button.
It just opens up so many possibilities. That new little addition that they made,
Yeah, yeah.
great addition.
I'm really glad that they make it like yes, you can equip two weapons, but they also make it easy for you in the heat of combat to switch. You know?
It's just a button.
Yeah, you just get on your mount and switch. It's pretty nice. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
nice.
it's really nice.
Okay.
Like they really do a good job making it feel very fluid, which I really like.
Cool. Well, this
Yeah.
game is at PAX, so maybe we'll come back with more impressions.
I
We'll
think
see.
you should play it at PAX
All
because
right.
you hadn't played it yet,
I'd love
and I
to.
really want you to
Yeah.
check it out for yourself. I'm sorry, I didn't. I have another Capcom game in here that I wanted to talk
Oh,
about. I forgot to add
please.
it in.
Go
but
ahead.
It's the Capcom versus Marvels collection.
Oh, you played this?
I did play this.
Okay.
And yeah, I really love these like Capcom collections. Like we saw the other collection
Yeah.
today in the direct, but like having it all in one place is really, really nice. You can like easily switch back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, I really like this one because I love Marvel characters as well. So it's nice to like pit the classic, Street Fighter characters or whatever around some of the Marvel characters. It plays really well. It's like that arcade experience. It feels really good.
Yeah.
And the two games that I really wanted to check out, but I wasn't able to because they didn't have it unlocked for us, was the Punisher, the beat 'em up game. So I'll have to check that out when
Yeah.
the game releases. It's coming out really soon in September. So I'm excited to play that too. But all of the fighting games and like the things, the rest of the games in the collection were really solid.
What was the other one you couldn't play?
Punisher. There was one more.
X-Men?
X-Men. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I've dabbled in those games, but never like really committed to learning them.
Yeah.
But it is just like they really have captured like what makes those Marvel characters fun.
Yeah.
And like I like how it's probably not super balanced, but like some of the Hulk is like really big, and like
Yeah.
to me that's like yes, I love the
Yeah.
Hulk. I just like it's like super angry strong guy. It's like
Yeah.
yes, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they're doing the digital version September and the physical version
Later.
November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I got on a good run with Iceman.
Oh really?
The
Okay.
attacks, it's so cheap. You just like throw ice cubes And it's like, yeah, I can totally beat anybody. It's like awesome.
Oh, wow.
And then like he like unmasks at the end. It has like this goofy expression on it. It's funny. It's like, you know, it's like lighthearted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other Capcom things?
I think that's all I can talk about for now.
All right. Emio the Smiling Man. Gonna make you smile forever.
I don't like this.
So this was your first, so the demo is out. We had played the first 2 chapters.
We have.
Third chapter for us drops tonight, and then the full game drops the next night.
How exciting.
So that's great. This is your first time playing a Famicom Detective Club game, right?
It is.
What do you think?
I was really glad that you were playing one of the ones on the airplane like a few
I did some
weeks ago.
prep, yes. I was
think
playing
you
the
were-
girl who stands behind.
Yeah,
yes.
and I looked over your shoulder because you were kind of describing this game to me, and I was like a little confused about how the gameplay works. Because I know that it's supposed to be like a visual novel, and it has like elements of an Ace Attorney game where you're doing these kinds of, you know, you're having conversations with people and trying to like put stuff together and like investigating an area. Like I kind of, you know, that gameplay is familiar to me. But there's other aspects of a Famicom detective game that's a little bit different. Like just the sheer amount of options that you have is quite a lot to juggle.
I was a little surprised. I thought they would streamline that a little bit because, yeah, that was my impression of playing those older games was like sometimes there was not always a clear distinction between some of the two, and it's like, okay, I know I need to do something to advance this, but I'm not entirely sure which. But I think it's pretty much the exact same. They must feel like, yeah, this is what we need to
works.
do this.
Yeah.
And
there's some that's like kind of overlapping.
Right.
Like call and then like talk and listen and think. Like I feel like I use that most of all.
Right.
And you're mainly using that in its specific order almost to advance the story. But it is sometimes a little bit confusing in which order you're supposed to do it so that you get the next prompt.
Right. That's always like where you don't want to be is like you have some momentum to this back and forth with you and a character, and then you get like, oh, what is the thing I do now?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's revisiting a talk prompt that you thought was exhausted. It's like, okay, he's got nothing more to say on this until now.
Yeah,
so
because you've thought about it and like something else is triggered.
You've progressed it more, and then there's some other info that you can delve into. So kind of chapter 1 was me like reminding myself like, oh yeah, this is how these games play.
Yeah.
And I had a much smoother time in chapter 2.
Right.
Kind of remembering like, oh yeah, this is how you play these games.
Yeah, they do a good job teaching you how to go back and forth with all of the different options that you have in chapter 1. So that was good. I sort of got a bit of a sense of how to do that. Chapter 2, the part that I was like a little bit stuck on that I thought was strange was when you were waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like strange prompts that you needed to do in order to advance the story.
Also, I think that was done intentionally because it's
you
like
to wait at the bus
you
stop.
are waiting for a bus that is not coming for an hour.
Yeah.
So I think the game was like, yeah, you're going to feel this wait for a little bit yourself.
I get it. Yeah. No, I get that. No, I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah.
But I was just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Chapter 1, I thought was like extremely functional of like we are setting up the basic idea of this story. We're introducing some of these characters. I didn't feel like there was a ton to do.
Right.
Chapter 2 I really liked because it starts to get a little bit deeper.
Introduce more characters.
Starts to introduce some like there's like 5 characters already. Like you're Emio, you're definitely Emio.
Or maybe you're not Emio, but you're like connected.
You're suspicious. You have
there's
some
something
connection.
connected.
Right.
Yeah, there's something going on with you.
And I'm sure most of these will go nowhere. They're total just like fake. You know,
red herrings.
Red herrings.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited to keep going with this. I'm very on board with the way that they have done this demo. I think it's been really fun.
I love it. I think it's such a good idea to do the demo like this, and I've been looking forward to the next chapter dropping every week.
Yeah.
And I do really love the look of this game. Like it definitely feels like a cross between a Japanese anime, like a horror Japanese anime.
Oh, a Japanese anime.
Yeah. No?
As opposed to the American anime?
Regular anime?
It's one of my Japanimations.
It's not Bugs Bunny, guys.
No. Yeah, I think this game looks and sounds like super good.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a ton of motion, but when it does, like it's very impressive.
Yes.
And like with Thank Goodness You're Here, which is a game we played a few weeks ago, it's like you're playing a cartoon. Like it is like they have somehow figured out how to do this. And like I kind of had that feeling watching this too. Obviously, the style is very different.
Yeah.
But it just looks really good.
Yeah. It's like you're playing like a movie, basically.
Yeah. And our community had told us this too, but like the music in this series being like top notch. And there's some really good songs in this demo already.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm having a talk with this grizzled detective about this grisly murder, but I just want to get down to this music.
It's the bop, another bop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's true. The music, the atmosphere is really well done.
Yeah.
Like when you go to like, the inside of the police station, you really like get the atmosphere.
Right.
Or like when you're outside waiting for that bus, you're like in this remote, kind of creepy area. You get that atmosphere.
Right.
And we were joking. We were like the detailed Japanese taxi.
Oh, I love being
with
in that
the
taxi.
doilies.
Yes.
We'll be there soon in a Japanese.
I'm going to be feeling that doily.
You're going to be like loving the automatic door that opens up, getting that doily, the little tray when you put the money in.
Right.
It's all there.
Right.
It's great. It's good. Good atmosphere.
I don't want to get sidetracked on this, but I have started to have this obsession with this Japanese car, the Toyota Century, which the concept of is like, what if Toyota made like basically a Rolls Royce?
Yeah.
And it's like the prime minister is chauffeured in this.
Right.
You have to be invited by Toyota to buy
Buy
one.
one, yeah.
I'm like fascinated by this. I hope we see one in Japan.
I'm sure we will.
That's all I have to say on that.
Maybe you'll get to ride one.
I don't think I will.
What if you do?
Unless the prime minister is like, hey kid, come on in.
You want to play this video game in the back of my Toyota?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Have your Mario Kart moment in the back of a Toyota Century.
Another game.
Oh my God, this game.
So Arzette is a game that I picked up after we played the Zelda CDI games because people in our community were saying like, did you know there is a spiritual successor to those games that is really nailing the vibe?
And
I had to check this out for myself. And I watched some trailers, and I said, wow, they really did that. And I bought this game, and I'm loving it.
So they have the goofy cutscenes and sort of like that
same art style. It's in that same kind of 2D, pretty straightforward 2D action, but
the gameplay, they nailed it.
So those CDI games did have some good ideas of almost like a light Metroidvania, where it's like you can go to those levels in any order. There are often some obstacles that you'll run into. Usually you'll meet a character who like has some request, and once you fulfill that request, you get some new item or they'll open up some path. So it's just kind of satisfying to like solve all those and like properly make it through the levels. Obviously the CDI version looked like it played like garbage though.
Yeah, this one
Whereas
doesn't play like garbage.
this is like a very competently playing game. And that helps a lot of the unique presentation. You accept it a lot more when it's in a fun game versus like this game that's like janky.
Also, you accept it a lot more because it's not Zelda.
Exactly. I don't have all the baggage of what I expect from a Zelda game.
Yeah, when it's just new IP that's done in a particular style.
Yeah. So it's an original game, original characters, but like they are really like trying to do that, which is like kind of mind-blowing that this game exists. It's like, oh yes, remember that? The most mocked, reviled game of all time? We're making more of that.
Yeah, we're making a direct sequel or a spiritual successor to that.
But there must...
So interesting.
I mean, there must be...
An audience.
An audience for this, of which I guess I am now part of it because I really like this game.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's an interesting exercise because you do, between the moments of you wanting to vomit, you do see like some of the promise of the game. Like you do see like, okay, I see what they're doing here with this kind of gameplay or this sort of, this idea of collecting items or like using the environmental items that you get to defeat enemies. You see some of that, they just cannot execute it.
Right.
But it's cool that there's a game that exists out there that can execute it.
I don't know when it ends. This game, when I got it, was on sale.
Oh.
And I think as of today, it was still going. Maybe
Steam?
Switch.
Oh.
I think it's Switch and Steam is what it's out on, and it was on sale. I think it was like normally $20. I got it for $12, so pretty good deal. Last thing I'll say, top-notch soundtrack.
Well, the music in those CDI games
was very good.
Hecka good.
But this, like, even if you're not going to play this game, just like listen to some of the songs because they're really good. Yeah.
Oh.
Really, really good.
Okay.
One more game, Bakeru.
Did you beat it?
No, I've not beaten it yet. I'm still working my way through that, but some interesting stuff has happened. And I think last time we talked about this, I was only allowed to talk about the demo. Now the whole, like you can find reviews for this game that are out there. so I can talk about it a bit more. Something I'm really, really liking about this game is just like how different every level is from the last. Like, I have not done any 2 levels that feel like kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're always giving you some sort of new setting or some sort of new thing to do. There's also these like one-off levels that are very different but fun. There's one that is very clearly inspired by Mario Kart, one that's very clearly inspired by Wave Race.
Oh, wow.
I also did one that I really liked, which was like a giant robot, like a kaiju battle.
Oh.
Which, do you remember Project Giant
I
Robot?
do remember Project Giant.
That atrocity.
And Bill Trinan got pushed down, and then he got a headache afterwards?
That was amazing.
Yes, I do remember that.
Like, this was if that was actually fun.
Oh.
It's like a boxing match between these 2 giant robots, and they have like all, custom controls, but it just like feels super good to do. And you're like in this big city, and like the city's getting destroyed. But the base, level, most of the levels are these kind of, I imagine it like Super Mario 3D World, but more like fighting heavy.
Right.
I think I now have all 4 of the transformations.
Okay.
So one makes you small and very maneuverable, and you can jump. You're better at jumping. There's another one where you turn into this big guy who's like good at punching, so it's just like pure power. There's another one of the guy who uses fishing rods. So that's kind of like for crowd control. You can really quickly do these fishing maneuvers and wipe out all
No
these
more
guys.
Drumsticks?
In the transformations, you get different weapons.
Oh.
And then one more, it's like a guy on roller skates who has little like laser guns.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so all of those are really fun to use as well. You can't just spam those. There's like a meter that goes down, but you get enough of that meter where you can do it quite a bit. You don't feel like it's limited. But some of these levels have just been so fun to go through. Like, I just did one. It was in, all of these take place in like real Japanese places too. So I did the one in Kyoto where you were in this like parade where there's all these big floats.
Oh,
and
Gion Matsuri?
that level actually has a little bit of auto scroll to it, which I normally don't like, but in this case it's like,
It works in the parade
you got to keep up with the parade.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense. And you
That's
were
cool.
jumping around from all these different floats. I did another one where you're like climbing up this really big Japanese castle, which was really cool. And the graphics in this game, I think they're really good for a Switch game, and they have a really good art style.
The art style I loved because it had like that sort of old Japan kind of feeling, but also was like super clean and crisp looking.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is like the Vista game of the year, but it's got some really nice vistas. But I just really appreciate that every time you go into a new level, it's like, what is this going to be?
Yeah, it's like a lot of variety.
Yeah. And so for the first chunk of the game, it was pretty linear of like, this is the next level, that's the next level. Then I reached a point where you can freely choose from a number of levels, and you go into your Tanuki-powered teapot spaceship.
Perfect.
And you fly around in that.
Awesome, love it.
So now I have, a huge number of levels that I can do in whatever order.
Nice.
So it's good.
There's a lot of levels too. You said they were like.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I don't know how long this game is because
how many levels are there?
In the info, they're like, oh, this is 70+ levels. I'm like, wait a minute, because these levels they're longer than a Mario level.
Yes, they seem like they're
definitely
more
longer
involved.
than a Mario level.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how long is this game? I don't know.
Is there like a boss fight at the end of?
Yeah, there's occasionally boss fights.
Okay.
And that's how I've been getting those transformations.
Okay,
Beat the boss, get the transformation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like it.
Great.
Yes.
Whew, that's a lot of games.
Wow.
Wow.
We had a really cool Never a Minute segment planned for today that we are postponing to next week because
There's too much news this week.
We were going to be debating the importance of story in Zelda games, and we knew that was going to just be a real slobber knocker of a debate.
Slobber knocker.
We're going to save that for next week.
Okay, next week.
Let's get into some questions from our community, which we always get from our Patreon subscribers. You can check us out on patreon.com/Kit and Krysta. Get that exclusive content.
Oh, yeah.
Get that early access.
Oh, yeah.
Get that
Discord.
Exclusive Discord. Hang out with us and so many great people.
So fun.
My gosh, check us out. Riven has the first question. I got to say, I really respect. Riven sent this question before the Nintendo Direct and Indie Showcase even happened.
Whoa.
Riven knew what was going to happen.
Riven.
Another Direct, another lack of Silksong. But this got me thinking.
Oh, man.
For a highly anticipated multi-platform release, who decides how and when information is revealed? Does the dev, Team Cherry in this case, get to choose which of the big three direct-like presentations get to announce it? Do those publishers court the dev with offers or promises in order to secure that sort of reveal? Has the sort of thing already been long decided amongst the publishers themselves with little to no developer input?
Yeah. No, I think the developers do have input in this, and there is this idea of like, for a very, very, highly anticipated game, there is this courting that happens.
Yeah.
I think from a developer's perspective, it's like, which platform has the biggest audience for me?
Or is going to connect with the audience that I want to reach with this game. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably a lot of the times how they make their decisions. I'm sure that there are fine print in those contracts, for multi-platform games on how you need to be talking about your game within all of the different ways that people can play it. But yeah, it's pretty common for developers to be able to, pick and choose what is the most important platform for them to announce, and they do have a lot of control over that, which is good. And yes, publishers do court them if it's a game that they think is going to be like a really big deal. So
yeah, there's a wide range of things that a platform holder can do to sort of align themselves. Putting them in these showcases is now a super high profile thing they can do. They can also, offer to provide marketing support. That was something that we were often brought in to do, where it's like, hey, we have this priority game. They're pretty small. They need help. Like, can you do this marketing for them?
Yeah, we did that a lot.
We were asked to do that. They can flat out give them money. They can help fund the game. A lot of these things are kind of activities that you would not hear about, but definitely happen. Nintendo did these things too. And we would hear about that sometimes too. Oh yeah, we helped fund that game. Really? I didn't know that. That would have been helpful to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things behind the scenes that they can do. But yeah, they truly have the power to make these decisions, and it's nice when you're in a position to
do that.
Be Mr. Popular.
Yeah.
And have everybody wanting a piece of your game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that whenever they are ready to actually show this thing,
they will have all the options
they will
available
have their pick.
to them.
They will pick whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody would be glad to have this.
Competition's high these days, though.
Yeah.
It used to be, you get, sort of, there's like all these diamonds in the rough sort of games that are going to hit. Like Shovel Knight was one that's like, this is going to be the darling, Now I feel like the competition is it's so intense. There's so many, like within a given few months, there are, hundreds of amazing games that are all clamoring to be part of a showcase, part of something. So yeah, you have to be a little bit more clever on how you get your game out there nowadays. It's definitely different than when the indie scene first, became a thing. So.
Baby Chris has a question. What's a video game you would like Nintendo to bring back to Switch for a limited time, like with the 3D Mario All-Stars? Did you like this marketing tactic to make this game a once-in-a-lifetime video game, or would you rather this game be available year-round? Thanks. Never do this again.
I dislike this.
Never.
Yes. I really, really, truly dislike this, and I disliked it even more when we asked why this was done in this way.
Why are we doing this?
Nobody had a straight answer.
Nope.
We were just brushed off. Yeah. Oh, because of this reason that made no sense.
I'm just going to talk in circles for 2 minutes.
I'm going to talk in circles.
And pretend like I answered the question, but I totally didn't.
Because there is no answer.
Yeah.
They're just being dumb. Don't do this. Don't do this.
Yeah, I just don't know who is the beneficiary of this.
Yeah.
Does anybody win?
No.
It's like maybe you incentivize some amount of people to buy it
right away
immediately, but I'm pretty sure a 3D Mario All-Stars would sell pretty well year-round.
Forever.
For more than 1 year.
Yeah.
So who's the joke on? I don't know. I don't get it.
It was very strange. Bring this game back, honestly.
Yeah. They also did this with the Fire Emblem.
They did.
We get questions about that sometimes. I don't recall the specifics of that one quite as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was another
similar
kind of
situation, though.
Pandemic special. We're going to sell this for a limited time.
And the jump rope game.
That was different. That was free.
The jump rope game.
This is just kind of a head scratcher
Yeah.
for everybody. And it's one of those things where like somebody high up talked themselves into it, and it's like, well, now we all have to do it. So
Yeah, exactly.
okay. Banana Bread Slice is here. Some of your best Nintendo stories involve tense emails back and forth with Nintendo HQ in Japan. How does the translation process work so staff can talk to each other? Did you need to have emails translated first before sending? Would you send and they would have it translated on their end? What was the process, and did it ever create delays or problems? I've had my share of tough email exchanges in my job, and I can't even imagine how a language barrier would add to the frustrations. Thanks.
Yeah, this was tough when we had to do this. So our like day-to-day contacts that worked sort of like what was a mirror of our own jobs in Japan, they all spoke great English.
Yes.
And we could write to them in English, and they would respond to us in English. And they sometimes would do some of the hard job of translating. If we had a question for a developer that needed a quick response, they would help us with that. So that was great. And we would have calls with them, and that was all done in English, and we didn't need a translator for that. Where this became a real, just like sort of a time suck, but also just hard, was when we were leads for like the global marketing campaign. Like when I was the global lead for Smash, I had to write directly to Mr. Sakurai like all the time. And so every single, and the giant committee that was running that game in Japan, there was like a lot of people that didn't speak English on that side. And so they literally assigned me a translator from the Nintendo Treehouse and the localization team, and he was like he was my translator. And I would write my email, and I would email it to this guy, and he was actually Mr. Sakurai's translator when he would come, and
Yes.
and he also is the person that is the voice when they would do Smash Directs,
And he's amazing.
and he's like literally the best human ever in this entire world. I don't know how he did this job, because I would have tore my hair out and just never came back to work, because it was unreal. The amount of translations, the turnaround time you had to do on these. Wow. Like sometimes when we had big problems, like leaks and things like that, oh boy, that was some real-time stuff where you're like writing the email, getting that email approved sometimes by, our boss, and then like shooting it off to get translated, and then getting it translated, and then putting it back into the chain where there was a process on how you sent the emails to Japan through that committee. And wow. And then they would write back, and then you had to get that translated. So it was a lot, and so much can be lost in translation, obviously. There's so many nuances, and when we were in those like really tense situations, that was hard. Like, don't try to Google Translate the email yourself too. You'll be tempted to, because
It never works.
You want to know what it says, and
Yeah.
you'll always be shocked by like, first of all, how incoherent it
Yeah.
is, but also because like you don't have the context, it sounds so harsh.
No.
You need,
It's like when you're
you need
sick
brain-
and you Google the symptoms, it's like, well, you're dying. It's the
so
same kind of thing.
true.
It's like, you're not going to get the right
Yeah,
information
it's
out
like
of
you're
this.
fired.
Yeah.
But you're not. But if you do it again, you'll
Yeah.
be fired. But yeah, you need the translator to like really put it in context for you. But it was so hard.
Yeah.
It really was hard.
There was another department called Language Services,
That's right. Yeah,
which
I remember
is
that.
kind of, for teams or people who did not have the luxury of a dedicated Treehouse translator,
Oh my God, I
or a
was so
department
lucky.
like we did.
Yeah, I was really lucky.
We'd sometimes
to
have to
them.
bring them in, and that was their job, and they would mostly do email. But if you had a meeting, like you could you could bring them in, and they would do this. They did a lot of the work on mobile as well. They used
Yeah.
Language Services, and I
Yeah.
remember when they would do the email back and forth, they had this weird like protocol of like, it's like everything is numbered.
Yes.
And I would sometimes get slapped on there, so like, please do not change the number of your response. I will do that. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Sorry,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to write this email.
There's another thing that they used to do where if you had to present something to Japan,
Yeah.
they would translate it
Right.
for you. But then I learned this the hard way. Like I had a presentation once, and the person translated it like word for word.
Yeah.
But it was really hard because we were getting like all of these questions, and it was becoming a very like tense conversation. And I felt bad for the translator because this person didn't have like the context,
The background of it,
to help
yeah.
like answer the questions, or put the questions, translate the questions for me so I can answer it with context. the store didn't have it. So I felt really bad because they were clearly getting very like flustered.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't really understanding what the questions were anymore that were coming from Japan. So everybody was really frustrated. And they ended that meeting, we're just like, forget it. We got to try this again another time.
I have seen in a meeting,
yeah.
a big meeting, a translator gets sent off where it's like, this just isn't working.
It's not working
and
for
really,
you.
really feel
yeah.
bad.
Oh. But then I learned that you got to do these pre-meetings with the translator. So I started doing that.
You gotta fill them in.
And then like we would do like an hour pre-meeting where we would like go through the presentation and then give them all the background. And then it was much better.
Yes.
But it was that, I mean, all of this means extra work.
They have a really hard job of just jump in and understand this very specific business, part of the business you probably don't know anything about.
That is a real challenge. Like this translation stuff and the context.
And imagine them doing this, 30 years ago with a fax machine. Yeah. Imagine that.
Smoke signals?
How did anything get done? I don't know.
Forget it.
Gartooth asks, with the end of Game Informer, I've been wondering, do you think anyone will step up to fill the void of Game Informer now that it's gone? I can't help but see how Nintendo makes those really cool promotional magazines in Japan and wish for a return of Nintendo Power for fans in the US.
Yeah, is there still interest in physical magazines, I wonder?
I think the answer in the future is all fan-funded, like Nintendo Force, who has been around now for a few years. I just don't see any, big company
taking that risk,
getting behind this. Like, there's really no indication that this is a good business to be in. But, just like people have left traditional media to go solo, and they have been able to make that business work.
Yeah.
I think that's, it's obviously different from, people making, content like we do versus printing an actual magazine.
Right.
But the tools are there. I think somebody needs to really nail what is the economics of how does this work. Nintendo 4 has been doing this for a long time, so they probably know pretty well.
Yeah.
But I do expect to see more people trying to take that approach.
I feel like making it into a more premium collectible kind of thing, that's what Nintendo Force does really well, and some of these other printed things.
Yeah, Lost in Cult.
Lost in Cult.
We have a number of those, and that's I've read it and I want to keep it because it's so well done. And
it's not like before where you would read a magazine, you read Vogue, and then you just toss the Vogue.
Yeah, it's more evergreen essays in a lot of cases versus here's the new game, here's the screenshot, here's the fact sheet.
Yeah, so I think that's the approach that needs to be taken to make this have a viable future, because I don't think print journalism is really going to ever come back in the same way as before.
Yeah.
So.
Jesse the Jet asks, as a former museum professional, that's a cool job.
That's a very cool job.
I was so excited by the Museum Direct. I almost cried.
Oh.
Does Nintendo have a curator or archivist who maintains a historical collection, and have you ever met them or worked with them when you were still at Nintendo? Do you know what the scope of Nintendo's historical collection may be, more artifact-focused or other materials such as working notes and concept art, material from past events like E3, etc.?
The answer is no to all of the questions.
Well, they didn't have them when we were there, but I do think there is a curator for this museum.
You think so?
Now, well, who do you think is making these decisions? And somebody's in charge of this museum, and so I don't think they are as in control as curators at other museums. I think they have to go through the powers that be, and the people who are kind of really dictating the vibe and the areas of focus for the museum. But I think they have staff like that.
Yeah.
So no, we didn't meet them or know who they were.
Yeah, they did not exist.
Yeah, we were just learning about the museum around the time that we were leaving.
We always had this concern about the historical collection because it never seemed like it was well maintained at all.
Yeah.
When we were at Nintendo, it was always I don't know where that document, where could that be? I don't know.
Yeah. I think they have a lot of it, but it's very disorganized.
It is,
you would talk about the NOA storage facility archive that you would go to, and it sounded like a complete mess.
It was a complete mess.
Right.
It was like that part, at the end of Indiana Jones where he wheels the thing in and it just disappears.
Right. There was no need to properly
catalog.
On the flip side, though, great that they have it. It didn't just get
trashed. Don't throw it away.
Which is what you would do.
Exactly. I would be bad at this job. The other thing is in Japan too, I don't know if they even have that system, So the development documents, like how are they keeping those? I think it is not a you've stolen them. It's not like a organized process. Maybe they have it now because they need to do this for the museum, or they're going to be potentially doing more for the museum around historical material, and they have a better way of looking through all that stuff and organizing it now. But when we were there, we were always concerned, like, what if there was like something bad that happened? Like, what if, during the pandemic, when the office got shut down, we're like, what if something happened in the office? And all this stuff disappears. Like, we were saying, like, oh, this office, one of the offices that had like a bunch of like gaming documents stuff had like a flood.
Well, worst case,
a fire.
When I was at Konami, I did hear stories of Konami used to have a big office in Kobe, and in the 90s there was the Kobe earthquake, and they were like, so much source code was just lost.
Yeah.
Like source code for these old games, it's gone. So
yeah. So that's what I was always scared about.
Right.
Because they didn't have a good system when we were there. I hope that's changed since then.
Right.
Because of the museum is a forcing function.
Yes.
But like that's the scary thing. It's like,
and this stuff can make you money, so you better take care of it and do something with it.
No. And the people too.
Give me the museum shop. I'm gonna raid the museum shop. Put it all in a book. I'll buy it. Thank you.
Yeah. The people too. Interview these people before they retire. Interview these people before they pass away, because they will, and they're old. And you'll lose those stories, those oral stories forever.
Yeah.
So, like, do it now while you have the chance,
right.
Yeah.
Last question is from Zelgaroth. It's Zelda season, so I have a Zelda question.
Yeah.
During the lead up to Skyward Sword, there was a viral moment when eagle-eared fans discovered that the main theme of the game was also Zelda's lullaby played backwards. As the marketing leads for Skyward Sword, were you informed about this musical property before fans discover it, or was it a secret to everybody?
No, we knew.
We did?
They told me.
I didn't know that.
Oh, they told me. Sorry.
What's the deal?
Sorry.
Why did they do that?
Why did they tell me and not you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was in.
This
So
is
cool.
such a point of frustration. Like, the little side information that's
They
like,
do a lot.
tell everybody. This is important. This is valuable to know.
I thought you knew. Sorry.
No. This is like the Mario 3D land of like, oh yeah, there's a whole second half of the game. You didn't find out until the game came out.
That's different. This is a little throwaway.
Come on.
That was a little
Come
bit
on.
more than just like the thing played backwards. But yeah, they were like, we were really excited to share that. The song is, if you listen closely, it's the song played backwards. I'm like, this sounds this good backwards and forward? That's amazing. Like, that's some good songwriting there, Mr. Kondo. You know, like, way to go. Yeah.
Maybe just be a bit more consistent.
With what?
Telling people things.
Communication?
Yes.
Okay.
Play favorites. Whisper something in your ear. Jeez.
I think our good friend Eric Peterson told me that, actually.
Eric. Those are all of our questions. Thank you to everybody who sent one in.
Nice. Shall we wrap this up with some wonderful shout outs?
We shall.
Okay. Final boss, Aaron Hash.
There he is. Aaron Hash.
And our superstars, Mauro Mayhem.
Eigenverse.
Kiss My Flapjack.
Mike Chin.
Roy Eschke.
Switching it up _
VGM Life.
Link the Hero of Wins.
Angela Bycroft and her pig Molly.
Thomas O'Rourke.
Kyle LaBeouf.
Roberto Nieves.
Frederick Wolf Conradson.
Andrew Uhas.
Chili.
Bruce Stash.
Simon.
Crashuri.
Master Discord.
Ash.
Ajay Kundlas.
And 40 Gig.
Woohoo. All right. And the One Up Club. Aaron Burgundy.
Ale Alejandro.
Astrodev.
Awesome 46.
Bad Moon Horizon.
Bates.
Ben GB.
Big N Gamer with a Y.
Bookham Dano.
Bookishly Fab.
Brandon Cavapil.
Brent Dennison.
Brooke Obscura.
Grovac Novak.
Cameron.
Chadir.
Shelly Squirrel.
Chris Cube.
Crispy Saurus.
Christopher Lay.
Christopher Thompson.
Captain Alex.
Christabel.
C Roper 17.
Dachshund.
Doinko.
Elite Peach.
Espars 50.
Fart Priest 69.
Fairbound.
Fernie and Jess Forever.
Fox Deploy.
Garth the Wolf.
Gartooth.
Guilty Phoenix 42.
Happy Sloth.
In Space Khalil.
Iris Marin.
Jay Rando.
Jack Hoving.
Jeffrey Hernandez.
Joe Encarnacion.
Jonathan Rowe.
Jordan Collette.
Jordan Hemmerly.
Joshua Clements.
Juji Fruit.
Justin Lemminger.
Kawa 2796.
Keith Kwan.
Kevin Delane.
Kilo Kibo.
Krista Roddy Elf.
Christopia Party with Me.
Kyle Gamer Barry Rookie.
Kyle Kretzer.
Lazy Cat for Coffee.
Lex.
Link 9898.
Lit.
Luigi 53.
Lynn.
Macho Potato.
Mad Dog 5981.
Magnificent Easy G plus Callie Marie.
Marky Man 64.
Mario Man 392.
Mecha Dragon 101.
Megan.
Michael Craven.
Mikey.
Mr. Ryan 07.
Uh-oh. I lost it.
Motomania.
Motomania, and Mr. Andy Pond,
Mr. Beans and Dip,
MSN Poke Gamer,
My Tram,
Nasir,
Nathan Burkhart,
Naif E,
Ninja 11,
Pangy,
Paul,
Paul Gill Network,
Prime Factor,
Prince Charmless,
Reaver,
Rain Tech,
Record Rumble,
Ryuji Utsuho Okuu,
Riot 1,
Rob,
Romsky 113,
Rox,
Rayonetta,
Sakura Sky,
Sharif Jackson,
Shinryu,
Schmiggles,
Slowbro,
Snazzle,
Spicy Poo,
Spicy Munchkin,
Steel Citrone,
Pseudo Priest,
Tales of Link,
Tay 120 and 64,
Tail Fox 64,
The Keggers,
The Sharkamon Men,
Thomas Alvarez,
Three Rivers,
Timmy V,
Torcheeks,
Totally Joe Ed,
Travis Torline,
Trajowie,
Tugs Puppy Bear,
Tusku,
Tyler Geis,
Video Games Stupid,
Fidge Mictor,
Viridian,
Virtualbot,
Weeb Kingdom,
WG Grizzy,
YU,
Wicked Davy,
Will Johnson,
Zelgaroth,
Zapati,
and Zroid.
the first inaugural Kit and Krysta Fantasy Football League is
I need
kicking
to
off,
do it.
and you're a part of it.
I know, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone
Next-
said Aaron Rodgers.
Next week's content is canceled because we're going to be crushing mock drafts all week long.
Do I need to do something right now?
No,
Okay.
I'll help you out. Don't worry. I'll help you out. Worst case, auto draft. There you go.
Auto draft is okay. I
Yes.
don't know anybody. I know Travis Kelce for reasons.
There's a guy in another league I'm in whose his team name is Free Whims. Maybe you can adopt that this year. You can just be the Free Whims for all of us.
Maybe. Oh no, I don't want to do that. What if I auto draft and I win?
Okay.
Wait, what's the prize if I win?
There's no prize.
Okay.
Pride is the prize.
Oh, okay. We should have a prize. eShop
Wow.
card. eShop card.
We're up in the stakes now. All right.
eShop card.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Add it to the
Well,
community.
I'll look forward to you handing me that eShop card soon.
Or meet someone else in the community. I mean, you can't win it. You're disqualified.
Don't preempt the Applebee's gift card I'm giving you for Christmas this year now.
I thought it was Chipotle.
It could be Red Lobster. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Olive Garden?
The Sizzler. Olive Garden's gone. Sizzler,
No.
Red Lobster.
Unlimited soup and breadsticks
Gone.
and salad.
It's gone. Not in
Give me-
2024.
give me that.
It's not unlimited, let me
Give
tell
me
you.
that.
Okay.
I want that.
All right.
All right. Anyways, please help this podcast
Please.
with free breadsticks, soup, and salad from Olive Garden by going to patreon.com/Kit and Krysta.
If you're watching this on video, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment. If you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a written review, if you please.
And we're on the socials. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Threads. All right. That is all. We're leaving.
Off we go.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.